boy was beaten like this every single day. Even in the rain, the bullies showed no mercy. The city shown was from 2 years ago. It was a day of rain and thunder. You could hear the screams. He was exhausted, surrounded by more than 10 bullies. Taeyang raised both hands, saying he wouldn't give up. But then the leader of the bullies arrived. He knocked one of the boys down, saying it was pathetic. Then he ran straight toward Taeyang, but he's hit by a kick instead. The man readies a strike, grabs the protagonist's shirt, and throws him to the ground. The young man loses consciousness for a few seconds. The thug gets on top of him but misses the punch to his face. The protagonist quickly gets up and strikes him on the chin, rapidly backing away. The thug calls him a major asshole. He charges forward again as the protagonist readies a punch. However, the thug manages to dodge the blow. He grabs his legs and shoves him away. The protagonist falls back to the ground right where he started. Then the thug starts wailing on him relentlessly. He manages to block the hits with his arms and elbows until a stronger blow connects. The protagonist spits blood, and the thug tells him to just go to hell already. His underlings ask if the cops are here and wonder who called them. The thug turns around, asking what the hell is going on, but the man with the umbrella tells them to get lost. The big thug tells the protagonist to get out of his sight, saying he must be really embarrassed. But the protagonist gets up and shouts for Taeyang. All the delinquents turn, wondering if he's lost his mind. The protagonist asks him why he's doing this. Taeyang replies that it's because he has to become Wang. About 20 years ago, the most famous violent gang in the history of Taeyang City in Korea was called Kumo, the worst nightmare for the city's police. Just when the city's security forces couldn't handle the brutal escalation of the situation, someone called on the phone. A police officer asked if it was true, if the Kumo bastards had been wiped out. That notorious gang was crushed by a single man. He then vanished without a trace, leaving the school with nothing but his coat. In honor of this heroic story, he was given the title of Wang, based on the name of the school he likely attended. From then on, it became a symbol for the strongest school in the region, and whoever held the title would be admired and feared by the students. This had an unavoidable effect on the juvenile crime rate, so Myeongwang was always a controversial topic. Yugwon Kang from Jimyong School was holding the title of the 16th Myeongwang, until recently, when he was found defeated on the ground. People comment that the new Myeongwang was from Ilwon, and that it was unexpected. A young man says that since he's a sophomore, he's the same age. Then a girl arrives and asks if he's the seller. She says it's nice to meet him and wants to know if that's the latest release from the Stoneland collaboration. The chubby guy just thinks she's very beautiful. He then confirms, asking if she goes to Haesong School, which is very close, but the girl just wants to see the shoes first. The guy quickly shows her the box. The girl says it's too expensive for a used pair, but the chubby guy yells that it's not, because he got it directly from Kushina. He hasn't even shown her the receipt, but he quickly apologizes for yelling, saying it's a real pair and she should trust him. Then he looks at the girl, who is covering herself as if she's scared. The chubby guy says he wasn't planning on giving a discount, but since he yelled at her, he'll take 10,000 won off. The girl thanks him and hands him the bill. The chubby guy asks what this is and if it's a joke, so they should just forget the whole thing. But the girl screams very loudly. The chubby guy asks if she's okay as a hand approaches from behind him, striking him. The person asks what the hell is wrong with him. The chubby guy is thrown backward. The girl grabs her boyfriend and says this loser keeps hitting on her, not knowing his place. The chubby guy thinks they're all from Haesong and they must have set this up. The delinquent leans down and asks what he wants, messing with girls, and on top of that, his girl. Anyway, they're going to finish this. Since he caused emotional distress to his girl, they'll consider it even. There are victims and witnesses and he's got the footage, so he shouldn't think about getting away with anything. But he'll let him go easily since he's from Myeongwang School. He comments that the sneakers are incredible. The other people in the burger joint watch the scene, jaws dropped. Meanwhile, the chubby guy is seething with anger, still on the floor. On the city streets, the protagonist says it feels strange, and that he's sure this is the right way. He scratches his head, wondering if he's going to be late on his very first day of school. He follows his GPS until he bumps shoulders with one of the delinquents. The delinquent asks what the hell that was and if he's blind, but the protagonist just stares at him without responding. The delinquent says he's lucky he's not dealing with him right now. Then the burger joint door opens, and the chubby guy tells the scammer to stop right there. He grabs his shirt, telling him to give him his shoes back now. The delinquent tells him to get lost because he's embarrassing him, and the protagonist just notices they're wearing the same uniform. The chubby guy asks if he knows how much these shoes cost and that he won't sell them to him. The delinquent gets angry at this and smacks the back of the chubby guy's head. He tells June to go on without him because he's going to teach this bastard a lesson. The protagonist watches, a little confused. In an alley, the delinquent throws the chubby guy down and tells him to say another word if he's so bold. He was making it seem like they were scammers, and he let it slide even though he was messing with his girl. And this is how he repays him. The chubby guy says he didn't do anything and just wants his shoes back because he's not selling them anymore. The delinquent grabs his hair, smashing his head while calling him a bastard. He tells him he doesn't even think before he acts. He hits him several times while his friends smile. Then he warns him that he'd better get ready because he's going to regret this. Then a backpack is thrown, hitting one of the idiots in the back. The protagonist lunges forward with a flying kick. Then he punches another delinquent in the face, finishing them in seconds. The delinquent asks what the hell that was and turns around, but he tells his lackeys to go get him. The protagonist defends against a blow with his stance, counterattacking with a strike to the liver. Another underling charges forward as his friend falls to the ground. The protagonist lands a punch on his face. Then the delinquent leader calls him a son of a bitch. He tries to punch the protagonist. The chubby guy wonders who he is. He's wearing their uniform, but he doesn't remember anyone that strong. It didn't seem like he was a third year, and he doesn't think he was in the same year as him either, so maybe he's a freshman. Meanwhile, the protagonist dodges the punches. He ducks down once more and counterattacks with an uppercut to the delinquent's chin. The guy is knocked out, and the protagonist follows up with another punch. The delinquent is sent flying by the blow. Then the protagonist walks towards the chubby guy and asks if he's okay. The chubby guy asks who he is. The protagonist introduces himself as Shin Woo Jae. In the classroom, he repeats his name, saying he was supposed to attend high school here, but he was transferred to Hamyong for a while and is back now. The chubby guy thinks, so he's the new transfer student today. He's got some great fighting skills, but then he remembers what the name Shin Woo Jae means. The protagonist says it's nice to meet him and hopes they can be friends. A teacher tells everyone to be sure to welcome the new student, and that Woo Jae can take the empty seat. The chubby guy remembers now. Woo Jae approaches and asks if he's the guy from this morning with the sneakers. The chubby guy confirms, thinking, so he's that Shin Woo Jae. The protagonist says it must be fate and hopes they get along. Elsewhere, the delinquent is kicked away. A third year calls them idiots for getting their asses kicked by someone from Myeongwang. Namsuk Jo from Haesong School asks if they're sure he's from there. The delinquent on the floor, still bleeding, confirms. So Namsuk asks if there's anyone that strong there. Gyeongjun denies it, since the strongest from Jaegyeong was right here. His friend then asks why this bastard did it. Gyeongjun replies that he got suspended because of them, but he'd have to be crazy to do something like that. Namsuk stands up and says that either way, it's true he was defeated by Myeongwang, and it's embarrassing. The delinquent tries to apologize, but he gets hit by a kick that sends him flying. Namsuk asks what time the meeting was supposed to start. He says they have to deal with Myeongwang beforehand, since he was very curious about who that idiot was. As the day goes on at Myeongwang High, the protagonist thinks that he wanted to transfer here. But it wasn't just about seeing Seontae Yang anymore. He wondered what he should do. The chubby guy approaches and calls out to his new friend, thanking him for his help this morning. Woo Jae says it's no problem and takes the drink, thanking him. The chubby guy wanted to ask him something. He asks if he's the first leader of the Dawn. He celebrates, ecstatic that it's really him. He can't believe he's meeting a middle school legend this way. But he heard the first leader of the Dawn was expelled. Shin Woo Jae asks who told him that. The day passes, and he explains that this was the reason he came back here. Woo Jae replies that he was right, and that he will take down the Dawn by himself. The chubby guy tells him to wait, saying he was probably out of their league, but the Dawn was on a completely different level. He quickly changes his tune when he sees him get angry and starts praising him, but says going alone against everyone would be insane. Shin Woo Jae says it's fine and tells him not to worry. He was dying to crush these guys anyway, and was going to send a message, but he wanted to know how. The chubby guy replies that he doesn't think he needs to worry about that. He points out that the guys in front of them were from Haeseong. He bets they're here because of what happened this morning, but then he hides behind him, scared. Woo Jae asks what he's doing. The delinquents scan each student, trying to figure out who the idiot was. The chubby guy explains that the man with the eyebrow piercing was the strongest from Haesong and a member of the Dawn gang. Woo Jae says that must be it and steps forward. Everything was working in his favor, but then a student bumps into his shoulder. A group of 5 people walks past the protagonist. The chubby guy thinks they are freshmen. Cheol Sang-yu asks what the hell they were doing, messing with someone's school. Namsuk Jo says that without Jaegyeong, this place is a shithole. He admits the guy has balls for a freshman, but he was being very disrespectful. Cheol-sang says he doesn't need to be polite. A teacher shows up with a bat, asking what they were doing. Namsuk asks if they should go somewhere else, if he's got the guts. In an abandoned building, the two groups face off. Cheol-sang warms up while Namseok just stares at him, not reacting. Woo Jae watches from afar, asking why he has to stay crouched like this. He could just beat them all, but the chubby guy shushes him because it was about to start. Cheol-sang rushes forward with his fist, throwing several blows, but Namseok just dodges them easily. The freshman tries another hook, but his opponent dodges again. Stepping back for a few seconds, Cheol-sang tells him to take his hands out of his pockets. Namseok says he was trying to keep the fight fair and make it interesting. Cheol-sang lunges forward again, but this time his opponent counters with a kick. Namseok suddenly stops his attack and dodges one of the punches. The freshman grins as he lands a kick, saying he was too arrogant to call this fair. Namseok defends the blow with some difficulty. The chubby guy says he heard he was the best in middle school and has some skills. Shin Woo-jae watches without any reaction. Suddenly, Namseok grabs his leg, breaking his opponent's center of balance with a foot sweep. Cheol-sang falls flat on his back. Namseok grins and then kicks him. The guy writhes on the ground in pain, but the delinquent tells him to get up because they haven't even started yet. Cheol-sang gets up and tries to kick Namseok, but the delinquent just moves his hand forward and grabs his neck, punching Cheol-sang's chest several times. The guy falls to his knees. Namseok glares at him coldly, saying this arrogant bastard thinks he's all that. The chubby guy asks if they shouldn't help, but the protagonist was already gone. Namseok tells him not to be so arrogant and tries to kick him. Shin Woo-jae moves with surprising speed and repels his kick. Namseok asks what the hell just happened. The protagonist spins quickly and lands a high kick to the delinquent's face. Namseok is sent flying and asks what that was. The delinquent shouts that this was the guy from earlier. Shin Woo-jae asks if the bald guy was from the Dawn gang. Namseok gets up, saying that jumping into the middle of a fight was completely disrespectful. He would be a corpse now. The protagonist tells him to answer his question. Namseok lunges forward with a knee strike, asking who he was to even mention the Dawn. But the protagonist dodges it and moves to the side. He moves his fist at extreme speed and knocks out the delinquent, sending him flying. The protagonist tells them to go tell the idiots from the Dawn that Shin Woo-jae was back, especially that bastard named Seontae Yang. The rumors about Myungwang beating everyone from Haesong were huge, and the news spread quickly to other schools. At Jimyong High, a guy sits in his chair and asks if that's all. His subordinate congratulates the sunbai on a good job. The boss says he should be studying for the entrance exam but can't focus. Maybe it's because he's still pissed about how things went. He introduces himself as Youngmun Kang. He wanted to know who the next Myungwang would be. The guy says he wasn't interested in that kind of thing. Youngmun replies that he must not have heard the news. Apparently, Haesong High was beaten by someone from Myungwang. This isn't something to ignore, and since Namseok from the Dawn was defeated, the rest of the gang can't just sit around. The Dawn has been too quiet recently, and they must focus on what happens in their territory to stay safe. His classmate replies that he'll keep it in mind, and Youngmun says he doesn't want to pressure him. But since he lost the Myungwang title, Jimyong was no longer safe anyway. His classmate asks if the title is that important. An unspoken rule exists that no one can touch the Myungwang school, and even alliances like the Dawn must follow it. This was the most interesting championship in high school. He says he can tell just by looking that the guy who defeated him and became the new Myungwang, but he bets he'd give him a run for his money. His classmate replies that he doesn't know who he is, but wants to know how he could defeat a guy like the sunbai. Youngmun says he's being too modest. Jongjin Nam replies that the second year meeting is about to start and he's leaving now. His sunbae tells him to remember that the school's future is in his hands now. Jongjin leaves and repeats, Myongwang. On the rooftop of Jinsung Technical High School, 3 students face one. One of them charges at the giant guy, but he's grabbed by the shirt collar and thrown towards another. The 2 of them hit the ground hard. Another classmate starts to tremble with fear and tries to back away, seeing how terrifying the man was. He tries to attack with a punch, but his opponent just catches it, twisting his fist and making the delinquent writhe in pain. Some students open the door, looking for Hak Yang to help him, but they are surprised to see the fight is already over. A delinquent says he knew he could do it. He tells him he must become Myungwang and make Jinsung the strongest school. Hak Yang refuses and thanks him, warning that they should go before they're late for their new appointment. The delinquent grabs a bat, saying if he won't go, then he should just lose his life, but he's met with a kick that stops his blow. The delinquent is sent flying, and Hak Yang tells him to stop bothering him with that Myongwang bullshit. He was already the strongest of them all. As night falls on the city, under the sign of the Dawn, a delinquent throws Namseok aside. Jongjin watches without doing anything. The giant man asks if Namseok was telling the truth, and the boy confirms that he clearly said Shin Woo-jae. Byunguk Kim says he hasn't heard that name in a long time, asking his buddies if he isn't right. Rhea-san replies that she'd heard some rumors about him and was curious, but apparently he has a cute side. Jungyeon Hong tells her not to let Seontae catch her saying that, asking if Hyukjun doesn't agree. Byunguk asks if that was everything the idiot had said. Gyeongjun confirms but gets punched in the face and is thrown aside, asking what the hell he was, calling him pathetic. Then he notices something as the door opens. A young man walks towards them. Byunguk speaks to Seontae, breaking out in a cold sweat. Rhea does the same, along with his other friends. Seontae Yang from Ilwon School was the new Myongwang. He takes a sip of coffee, asking if he was serious. Byunguk confirms that he transferred and heard he made a grand entrance. Seontae says the reason he called this meeting is that now that he's the Myongwang, he can no longer manage Dawn. So starting today, he's stepping down as leader. Everyone in the room is completely shocked by this. Rhea asks why he's doing this, saying he can't just leave like that. Byokuk agrees. Now that he's the Myeongwang, he should be leading Dawn even more. He wants to know why he's throwing away a perfect chance to make money. Rhea tells Jonyeon to say something, but the nerd just asks for the reason. Seontae replies that he wants to be a Myeongwang people will respect for a long time, just like his brother. Byokuk says that's right, asking if he was the 7th Myeongwang. Jonyeon coughs a few times to get his attention. Seontae replies that's the reason. To be a better Myeongwang, he needs to level up. Now Byokuk was the new leader of Dawn. Everyone comments that he's making a rash decision and wants to know why him. Seontae asks if everyone has forgotten why Dawn exists. Byonguk worked hard to expand their influence and brought in tons of money. That proves he's qualified to be the leader. Rhea asks why so suddenly, especially since Doyeon isn't even here right now. Byonguk slams the table, shouting, "That's enough of this damn talk." He wants to know since when do they challenge Seontae's choices. He asks the others if they agree, and Jonyeon replies that if that's the decision, he'll follow it. Seontae confirms that he is the new leader of Dawn. He will follow in his footsteps from now on, and Byonguk understands. But setting that aside, he wants to know about that asshole, since he seemed to know his place. Seontae replies that in that case, instead of dealing with him himself, why not have Hyokjun take care of him? Byonguk replies that it's a good idea, and as always, he's thinking ahead. Hyokjun should go and have a tearful reunion, but the man tells him to cut the crap. Byonguk tells him to watch how he speaks to his leader, but Hyokjun replies that he's leaving. Seontae says he'll meet him eventually, and it would be better now than any other time. Hyokjun confirms this without turning around. Outside, he walks to his motorcycle, wondering why he was back right now. He was being as reckless as ever. In a nearby car, Jonyeon asks why, of all people, he chose Byonguk. He wants to know if he doesn't think Hyokjun or Doyeon were better suited for the position, and if he just doesn't care about Dawn anymore. Seontae ponders this. Thinking that Dawn always just meant the end for him, he replies that Byonguk is a better fit as leader. Jonyeon questions if that means he trusts him so much. Seontae replies that if that were the case, he wouldn't have involved him in the first place, and if Byonguk tries anything funny, he can put him in his place. The nerd just nods. Seontae asks how Doyoon has been lately, since he hasn't seen him at school. Jonyeon replies that he was heading back to Hamyong City. Apparently his cousin had been beaten up by someone, and Seontae questions if he wasn't the strongest in the city. The nerd confirms this, which is why Doyeon was roaming the city, seeking revenge. Seontae replies that he probably just wanted a fight to see how strong he is, but he wants to know who was behind it, and Jonyeon says he doesn't know yet. He asks if he's just going to let it slide since he didn't even show up to the meeting and is doing whatever he wants, but Seontae asks what he's supposed to do. The nerd says that if he wants, he can go have a chat with him. Seontae tells him to forget it, because he can't handle Doyeon. He'll still be useful, so they should just leave it. Jonyeon just agrees with his sunbae. Back at Myeongwang School, people are spreading rumors. Some delinquents start to surround Shin Woo-jae and the new group following him. The protagonist gets a little tense about this. Even while he's eating, they're watching him, or at the urinal when he's taking a piss. Shin Woo-jae sighs, putting a hand on his face, wondering how long they're going to keep this up. Chilsang asks his sunbae to please take him under his wing. The other underlings repeat the same thing. Shin Woo-jae tells them all to shut up. The chubby guy questions his long face. He should be happy his hubaes are his fans and will be back before the transfer. Shin Woo-jae replies that he doesn't need them and they should just leave him alone. The chubby guy says it's true that their school has gotten livelier since he arrived. He thought it would be a fair trade, but everyone got completely beaten by the guys from Haesong. With him taking care of Namseok, they shouldn't have any more problems. Other people go on with their lives as the protagonist looks back. The chubby guy says this means bigger problems will come in the future. Namseok was the strongest from Hansong and part of Dawn. They won't just stand by and do nothing. Shin Woo-jae says it's fine, and it's better if they all show up at once. The chubby guy replies that he told him, no matter how good he is at fighting, he can't beat everyone at once. The Dawn gang being strong is one problem, but all their followers are vicious. That's why he needs allies, whether it's a sunbae, a hubae, or a friend. The protagonist looks out the window, thinking about what he said, remembering when he was with Seontae, until someone curses him out for taking up the whole hallway. The other delinquents ask what they're looking at and tell them to show some respect. Cheolsang asks what this is about. A blonde guy questions if he was the one who defeated Namseok-jo from Haesong School. Woo-jae wants to know who the hell he is, dodging the blonde guy's punch. He recognizes the speed and puts some distance between them, wondering what the hell that was. Jaegyeong, a third year, says the rumors were true. Woo-jae Jae wanted to know what was going on. Then Jae looks back, telling him he should go to the cyber cafe after school. The protagonist tells him to stop right there, saying he's no one to give him orders. Then a girl shows up, calling for the protagonist because the bell rang. Woo Jae tells Jae to wait and ignores the girl. Hyeri grabs his clothes. The protagonist asks who she is to butt in. Hyunjun appears, asking if he really doesn't know who she is, because she's his class representative, Hyeri Chai. Outside the school, some students murmur as they see Hak Yong. His friends say they were wondering where they were going earlier, but now they want to know what they're doing here. Then the guy shows a teddy bear. A week ago, Hak Yong was reading a webtoon on his phone. A smile spreads across his face as Hyeri runs. She bumps into his chest and drops her umbrella, scraping her knee. Hak Yong apologizes for it, but the girl replies it was her fault, as she should have watched where she was going. He had a scratch on his face. Hak Yong touches it without realizing. The girl tells him to wait and hands him a bandage. Hak Yong holds the bandage and thanks her, blushing. Looking at the name on her shirt, the girl runs off, apologizing for it, walking behind her friends. Hak Yong watches her with a blush on his face, but he notices a teddy bear on the ground and asks her to wait. He holds the stuffed animal in his hands. His friends question whose it is. Hak Yong raises his eyes but gets annoyed right after, with Woo Jae calling Hyeri and her saying he was right and should say it again before he forgets. The protagonist asks how long she's going to do this, following him around like that. Hyeri asks what he's talking about since they're just going the same way. But just as she heard, he's fun, and she hopes they can be friends. Woo Jae asks what the hell that's about and tells her to forget it, while Hyunjin says she's been looking for him and has been a big help as the class rep, so it wouldn't hurt to be close to her. But he can't believe he doesn't know she's the class representative. Woo Jae asks who cares about that because right now, his goal is to crush Dawn. Hyunjin notices Hak Yong behind the protagonist and thinks he's huge. The guy asks who he is. Woo Jae gives his name and asks for his in return. Hak Yong introduces himself a bit shyly, his friends facepalm. Then Hak Yong asks about his relationship with Hyeri. The protagonist replies that she's his class representative. His friends ask if they aren't dating, and if she's just a classmate. Hak Yong says he made a mistake. He grabs the protagonist's shoulder, and Woo Jae notes he has a strong grip. Cheol-sang calls out to his sunbae, saying Jae-gyong was planning something. They stumble upon the scene with Hak Yong and wonder if he knows their sunbae. The protagonist swats his hand away, asking if he wants to fight. Hak Yong tells him to consider this a warning not to mess with Hyeri. Woo Jae remembers that and refuses, saying from now on, he'll make her life a living hell. Hak Yong's friends quickly pull him away since they couldn't give her the doll today because she had already left. Hak Yong glares at the protagonist as he walks away. Cheol-sang asks what that was all about, and if he's friends with their sunbae, but Hyunjun says no, he just seemed to know his class rep. Anyway, he wants to know what happened to them. They explain that Jae-gyong sent some underlings after Woo Jae, so they stopped them and handled it. He keeps a smile on his still bruised face as Woo Jae stares at him. He puts a hand in his pocket and tells them to stay out of his business. He doesn't want his friends to get hurt again because of him. Jae-gyong and his friends are playing at a cyber cafe. He keeps clicking angrily while his injured subordinates kneel before him, their heads bowed to the floor. Jae-gyong loses the match he's playing and slams his mouse. He calls them bastards, saying he told them to bring Shin Woo Jae earlier, but they lost to a freshman and came back empty-handed. He kicks one of them in the leg, asking what he has to say for himself. The guy explains it was Cheol-sang, the former leader of Myeongwang Middle School. One of Jae-gyong's friends mentions that a sophomore was acting arrogant near him earlier. He asks if Jae-gyong doesn't know him, even though they came from the same school. The blonde guy says no, and asks how he was supposed to know. Youngjun calls out to Jae-gyong, saying he's just off suspension, but is already looking for fights, especially in his territory. Jae-gyong smiles and tells his subordinates to get out. Youngjun shoves him in the chest, saying the bastard has a tough look on his face. If he wants to keep acting like Myeongwang's leader, he'd better learn his place. Jae-gyong asks if the crazy bastard doesn't understand his own situation. Youngjun gets pissed off and throws a punch at him. The blonde guy dodges the blow and stops his own punch right in front of him, warning that he can't handle a one-on-one fight, yet he's acting this way, so he should just leave, as he doesn't want trouble. Youngjun yells that he'll take him on, but Jae-gyong lands a punch, knocking the idiot down. He repeats that he couldn't handle a one-on-one fight. Youngjun asks his subordinates what they're waiting for and tells them to take everyone down now. A full-blown brawl breaks out. After a while, many delinquents are lying on the floor. Jae-gyong tells him to make sure to tell Namseok that he'll pay back what he did, with interest. Youngjun says he's not just messing with Haesong Hai now, and asks if he thinks the Dawn will just stand by. Jae-gyong says it'd be good if they came too. He needs to take them down anyway since he has to become the Myeongwang. Elsewhere in the city, Hak Yong's friends comment that he was mad about her being the class rep, and it seemed like they didn't have a good relationship. Besides, no girl would like a weakling. A real man needs to show his inner strength. Then one remembers the guy's name was Shin Woo Jae. The chubby one asks about a round of bowling. saying it's on him. He agrees to play something, but Hakyong declines. Since today is his parents' wedding anniversary, his friends say they should have remembered, even after 5 years, and ask if they should buy a cake. Then, one of them spots Byung-guk and his gang messing with a student. He turns back, recognizing his classmate. He calls out Woo-suk's name as he takes off his backpack. He then knocks back a few delinquents, asking what the hell they're doing. Byung-guk asks what this bastard is doing. The guy throws a punch, but the delinquent dodges it easily, countering with a blow that hits his guard. Gyeong Kim thinks about what just happened. He gets hit in the liver right after. He's knocked out and falls to his knees. Other delinquents rush forward, calling him a bastard. They beat him until he collapses while Byung-guk watches. The delinquents tell him to get lost and kick him. Then the chubby guy shows up, calling out to his friend. He lands a kick on one of the delinquents. He plants his feet firmly on the ground, grabs the guy's jacket, and throws him to the other side. He calls out to Kim. Just then, Byung-guk rushes in and grabs him. The chubby guy thinks his breathing has stopped. Byung-guk chokes him, saying it won't be fun if he goes down so fast, and keeps hitting him repeatedly. Hakyong's friend is in shock. Byung-guk says these brats from Jimyong-hai are always getting into trouble. He notices someone behind him and throws a punch. Hakyong easily catches the fist, surprising the delinquent. The giant then lets go and throws a punch of his own as he gets hit too. Both of them feel the other's strength. They get up right away. Planting his feet, Byung-guk charges forward, throwing a few punches, but Byung-guk tries another punch, but Hakyong easily dodges it. He counters with a powerful punch that Byung-guk blocks. He comments that the guy is a bit heavy. He notices something, and Hakyong tries to hit him again. However, the giant notices something too. Byung-guk plants his feet and lunges for a tackle. Hakyong is pinned against the wall and groans in pain. Byung-guk says it's over now and punches the giant in the chest several times. He smiles, but then a shadow falls over his face. Hakyong counters the blow, saying there's no way that's happening. Byung-guk thinks the bastard is asking for it and turns again, countering with a blow to the giant's face. Hakyong does the same with a hook. They trade blows for a long time, with neither side gaining an advantage. The delinquents watch, dumbfounded. Hakyong rushes forward again, and his friends are stunned. Kim wonders if this is really a high school fight, and who this monster is that's fighting on the same level as Hakyong. Byung-guk swings his fist again and hits the back of Hakyong's neck, but the giant doesn't fall and counters with a hook. The big guy stumbles back from the impact, bracing himself against the wall and planting his feet. The delinquents call out to Byung-guk. Kim thinks he wouldn't be messing with the Dawn for no reason. Byung-guk moves forward, thinking it's been a while, and he should get serious in return. He goes for another tackle. Hakyong wonders if he thinks he'll fall for the same attack and tells him to bring it on. But instead of grabbing his waist, Byung-guk grabs his thigh, thinking this is the end of the fight. However, Hakyong plants his feet on the ground. Using all his strength, he lifts Byung-guk and crashes to the ground with a suplex. All of Byung-guk's friends call out his name, and Hakyong's friends do the same. The delinquent gets up, saying it's far from over, but Hakyong is already on his feet, holding his backpack. Byung-guk asks where the hell that bastard thinks he's going. The guy replies that's enough for today. Byung-guk tells him to come on and fight. However, Hakyong replies that it's his parents' wedding anniversary. Everyone is surprised by this. His friends think about him saying that in this situation. They know they have to stop before it's too late. Kim looks back and asks what his friends are doing, and if they aren't coming. They both follow him without question. One of the delinquents tells the bastards not to go, asking Byung-guk if he's really going to let them leave. He says he should hurry up and finish this, but Byung-guk grabs him by the neck. Byung-guk asks who the hell this bastard is to butt in. The guy trembles with fear, but the delinquent tells him to drop it, thinking that despite his appearance, he's quite peaceful. It's been a while since he felt so excited. He said it was his parents' anniversary, and next time, he'll definitely crush him. At home, Hakyong announces he's back. His parents ask why he's so beaten up, wondering what happened and who did this to her son. His father just gives him a cold look. His sister asks what's the point of being built like King Kong, and his mother scolds him for the words he used with his brother. He's always reading romance webtoons, and that's why he's weak. Hakyong hands over the Taisimdang cake and congratulates him. His sister takes the cake, saying it tastes amazing, and his mother says her son is the best, as always. He watches them both, but then shifts his gaze, looking at his father. Hakyong nods at him. The cake sat on the table, only partially eaten. Then the young man starts hitting the punching bag. He remembers saying he was the strongest, but he had been beaten up by Byung-guk. Then he strikes the punching bag with all his might. He wonders what he was even saying. But then he starts picturing Shin Woo-jae with his hand on Hyeri's shoulder. He gets enraged and starts pummeling the punching bag repeatedly. Then he starts gasping for air, exhausted. His father says his punches have no destructive power. They're just strong and random. Hakyong calls out to his father as he walks away. His father says that given the state of his face, it must have been a pretty tough guy. Hakyong tries to deny it, saying that if it weren't for his birthday, he would have finished him. But he wants to know if being the Myeongwang is really that impressive. He should know better, since he was the second Myeongwang after all. Yoon Pil-young replies that he's not sure what he means, but there's one thing he can guarantee. It means being recognized as the strongest in high school. Sure, for someone like Hak, it might not make sense, but at least he was able to protect his school and his friends, including his girlfriend at the time, of course. That girlfriend is Hak's mother, and now that he thinks about it, time has flown by. Anyway, just hitting hard doesn't make you invincible. When your fist is loaded with your entire body weight and you have the ideal stance, the destructive power is on another level, he says, punching through the bag. That was the fist of a Myeongwang. Hak's mother asks what that noise was, saying it's driving her crazy. She yells that whoever it is will be finished if she catches them, as Hak and his father duck down. Hak stares at the punching bag and clenches his fists. In his bathroom at home, Cheol-sang is taking a shower. He recalls Shin Woo-jae hitting Naesuk and thinks it was an incredible blow. If it's him, he might even be able to challenge the Myeongwang. In comparison, even though the opponent was a third-year leader, he didn't expect to lose so easily. He can't stay down forever. Even if his goal has changed, his determination is the same as when he started high school. Just as he decided from the start, he will become a kingmaker and put Woo-jae on the throne. And to start, he needs to train. The next day, he's knocking out a delinquent. The guy admits defeat easily, and Cheol-sang thinks that he needs to become the strongest freshman. The young man goes from classroom to classroom, defeating each of the strongest fighters. Then he asks who his next rival is. The day goes by at school, and a delinquent mentions that the freshmen are fighting for the top spot. Jae-kyung asks if they hadn't already settled the freshman rankings. A delinquent says he doesn't want an easy win just by riding his Hyung's coattails. But since you were worried, I'll use this opportunity to show my skills. I am Chu Ha-jin, a kingmaker, paving the way for him to become Myeongwang. People surround the fight between the two strongest freshmen. Cheol-sang thinks that Chu Ha-jin used to be a Myeongwang squad leader, but he shouldn't be arrogant. He looks old for his age. And what's with that tattoo? Both think that if they defeat the other, they will become the boss of the freshmen. Chu Ha-jin throws a punch, but Cheol-sang dodges, thinking that he's faster than he looks. Then the chubby guy spins around quickly and lands a kick that sends his opponent flying. Cheol-sang groans in pain, clutching his stomach, but Chu Ha-jin gives him no time to rest and charges forward with his fist, hitting Cheol-sang's guard. The crowd shouts his name. Cheol-sang thinks that was a close one, having blocked the punch. Chu Ha-jin comes at him with both hands, shouting, "Try defending this." The young man holds his ground as he takes the blows, but when a stronger fist comes closer, he manages to counterattack, striking Chu Ha-jin's face even as he's being hit. The chubby guy comments that he can't just shut down over something like that. Cheol-sang reflects that his reach is much longer than he thought, so this brute was stupidly strong. Chu Ha-jin asks why he looks like he's given up, saying it's too late for regrets. He charges forward, yelling that he's going to turn him into a bloody pulp. All of Chu Ha-jin's blows are blocked or dodged by Cheol-sang, until one of the punches hits the fence. Cheol-sang thinks this guy is too arrogant, swinging his fists so wildly. His wide swings are making him less precise. He wonders why he's remembering the fight with Namseok. Chu Ha-jin's hands were trembling with pain. Cheol-sang asks if he wasn't going to turn him into a mess. He wonders why he's just hitting the fence like that, since he's just going to destroy his own hands and get hurt. Chu Ha-jin gets angry and yells that he's a rat. Then he charges with another punch, but Cheol-sang dodges. Suddenly he remembers his last fight, and every cell in his body recalls that moment. He grabs Ha-jin's fist and moves, his own fist reacting instinctively. And just like that, he knocks out the chubby guy with an uppercut to the chin. Ha-jin falls to the ground and Cheol-sang breathes heavily. The crowd gathers and starts celebrating the victory, saying that this guy really won and has now defeated all the freshmen. Cheol-sang sighs tiredly and walks away from his friends, who ask where he's going. The young man says it's obvious. They need to find Sunbae Woo-jae. In the cafeteria, the protagonist and Hyunjun, the chubby guy, repeats the word Myeongwang. Shin Woo-jae says that last time a freshman was about to talk about it. Lately, everyone's been talking about this Myeongwang thing, so he got curious. Hyunjun explains that it basically means being the strongest in high school. This whole thing started at our school. Since you've lived around here, you've probably heard about the famous Kumo gang and the school legend who took them down all by himself, Sunbae Hagukyeon, in a single night. To honor this feat by the Sunbae who vanished without a trace, a legacy called Myeongwang was established, but that honor didn't last long. The Myeongwang legacy was corrupted into a battle for the best fighters, and in the end, it just became about being known as the strongest in the schools. Shin Woo-jae comments, "So that's all it is." Hyunjun warns that the most important thing was, the true meaning of being a Myeongwang wasn't just being good at fighting, building. It was a symbol of power that controlled all the students in this area, taking on the role of regulating school hierarchies and mediating disputes. It depends on who becomes Myungwang in each school. As a result, the Myungwang school was directly impacted by the atmosphere and rules, and an unwritten rule was that their school couldn't be touched, especially since many Myungwangs graduate and go on to take positions in politics or become government allies. Lots of people are grateful for the support they provided. Myungwang became a path to a world bigger than just the student community. In contrast, there were also some horrible and extreme Myungwangs who started their own criminal groups or joined gangs. Woo-jae asks who the new Myungwang is. Hyunjun says that someone recently took the title, even though he's new. It's probably someone you know. Remembering when he was betrayed by his friend who wanted to become a Myungwang, he says there's no way. Hyunjun repeats the name, Yang Seontae from Ilwon High. The protagonist wonders why he did it in the end. Then the chubby guy hands him the phone. Looking at the screen, Woo-jae is immediately enraged. It was a video of Seontae Yang fighting another guy. A girl in the middle of it all is recording. Members of the Dawn gang surround the fight to watch, while other people surround the former Myungwang. Youngmon approaches the fight. He asks if Seontae said he was a sophomore. To challenge him, he'd have to be qualified. The young man replies that he must be, or today's fight wouldn't be happening. Youngmon comments that being the second son of the Ilwon group makes things easier. Seontae replies that's a very childish notion, so his opponent questions if being the leader of Dawn is what qualifies him. After all, most of his gang were leaders who produced kings from various schools. But this was even better, because with his defeat today, Dawn would also be annihilated. Seontae comments that he was curious how much of his fighting spirit would be left. Youngmon gets into his fighting stance and calls him an arrogant brat. Everyone is surprised by this as Seontae moves forward. He jumps and tries a kick, but Seontae dodges by ducking. They both face each other. Seontae readies his fist, but is almost hit by Youngmon before he can strike. Then, Seontae notices something and takes a punch, defending it with his arm. He thinks that this guy was tougher than he expected. Seontae moves quickly, striking at his face, but Youngman blocks and retaliates with a kick. Seontae reflects that this guy's defense was impressive, wondering if he was determined to dodge any attack. He then tries a kick, but ends up hitting the fence as Seontae dodges. But Youngmon changes the direction of his foot, using it as a base for a punch, warning that this was the end. Seontae manages to block it with his arm. Youngmon moves his leg and advances quickly, throwing several punches at Seontae without stopping. The students comment that, as expected, Youngmon was dominant and the king of Jim Young. The guy tries another punch, but Seontae dodges. He warns that they should stop right there, landing a punch on Youngmon's chin that knocks him out. The guy starts to fall but plants his feet firmly on the ground, asking who said that because it wasn't over yet. He tries another blow, which is easily blocked by Seontae. Youngmon tries another punch, but his opponent dodges quickly. Seontae starts beating him repeatedly without stopping. Youngmon was close to falling but keeps his feet planted on the ground. He throws an uppercut, asking if he thinks he'll go down with just that. He can't let himself be taken down now because he needs to protect the title of king. This was the only way to protect his Jim Young. The blow gets closer to Seontae, but he retaliates with a punch to Youngmon's liver. He is easily defeated, and Seontae prepares himself, kicking him to send Youngmon flying away. Everyone is shocked as the guy hits the fence. He lies on the ground, unable to do anything else. Seontae approaches him and prepares to hit him again, but someone grabs his hand, telling him they should stop right there. Everyone from Dawn is surprised by this. The hooded man says the match has already been decided. Youngmon was defeated, and Seontae watches this coldly, but he breaks free and turns to his friends. Everyone celebrates his victory with immense joy. Yang Seontae from Ilwon High School became the 17th king. In the classroom, Woo-jae thinks that this was his old friend. As the day goes on, Hyunjin gets worried about him, looking at his friend while Woo-jae's mind could only remember the video. He thinks he can no longer find the image of Yang Seontae that remained in his memory. He wonders why it matters now. Then he turns to Hyunjin, talking about this whole king thing. Cheol-sang runs towards his senior. Woo-jae asks if he got into another fight, seeing how bruised his face is. Cheol-sang replies that it's a mark of his fighting spirit. Hyunjin and Woo-jae look at him surprised. Cheol-sang says he finally became the freshman leader, and Woo-jae replies that he'll become one too. Hyunjin is surprised, and Woo-jae says he's going to become Myungwang. Everyone is surprised, and Cheol-sang tries to say he'll be his right-hand man, but Woo-jae tells him to get lost. He wants to know if he can fight the guy who became Myungwang, just like in the video. Hyunjin replies that it's not that simple. To fight a king, he needs the proper qualifications. Woo-jae asks about that, and the chubby guy explains that over the years, unique rules were naturally formed during the process of changing kings. These rules gradually refined into the current king system. Woo-jae asks what those qualifications qualifications were. Hyunjun explains it's about surpassing the existing king in strength and charisma. Woo-jae replies that in that case, he already has enough. But the chubby guy says he must first become the school's leader. If he dominates 5 schools that have produced kings, it's generally accepted that you have the qualifications to fight a king. Woo-jae replies that it was simple. Hyunjin disagrees, knowing he's strong after seeing him defeat Haesong High, but the opponents he would face with those qualifications wouldn't be easy, considering there are likely hidden dragons in every school. It was like walking into a storm. Woo-jae says becoming a hero in chaotic times wasn't a bad thing, but the chubby guy says it won't be easy to become the leader of his own school, and Woo-jae asks who the current leader is. Hyunjin replies that it's senior Lee Jae-kyung, which startles Cheol-sang. Woo-jae doesn't know who that is, and the chubby guy says it was the man who suddenly hit him last time. Woo-jae recognizes the blonde guy. Hyunjin comments that he doesn't know his real worth, and Cheol-sang must know a lot since he was part of the king's group. The guy replies that he does. He had once been his idol. Woo-jae watches this as Hyunjun explains that Jae-kyung has never stopped fighting, but since his school is weak, he can't do anything alone. If Woo-jae or Cheol-sang had been with him from the beginning, his status could have been different. Who knows? Jae-kyung might have even become Myung-wang. But Cheol-sang shouts that this thug could never be a king. Hyunjun is surprised, and Woo-jae says the first target to earn those qualifications has been decided. It's going to be that blonde guy. The chubby guy asks if he didn't hear what he said, because Jae-kyung wouldn't be an easy opponent. Woo-jae replies they'll have to see in a fight, and Cheol-sang says they will definitely defeat that guy. The chubby guy considers what happens if Woo-jae actually beats Jae-kyung, wondering what he'll do after that and if he'll go after the other leaders to fight alone. And even if he does, the other leaders wouldn't want to face him. Woo-jae replies that they want to avoid him since he'll win anyway, but Hyunjun disagrees. Because before fighting the leaders, their followers would attack first to protect their bosses, so he needs someone to fight by his side, like comrades or friends. Cheol-sang replies that he's right there and will fight by his senior's side. Woo-jae warns that he doesn't really want to become Myung-wang, he just wants to fight Yang Seon-tae. Hyunjun asks what he means. Cheol-sang gets annoyed at his senior for saying such things, because he should leave a great legacy. Woo-jae tells him to stop and not to regret it after fighting all this time. The guy calls his senior and asks if he was worried about him, while Woo-jae turns away, annoyed. Cheol-sang celebrates that Woo-jae is worried about him. Woo-jae reflects that this is his fight alone, and he doesn't need anyone's help. It doesn't matter who they were or how strong they are. He would take them all down, and Yang Seon-tae should just wait, because he was going to hunt down his old friend. Elsewhere, Chu Ha-jin kept his head down as a delinquent kicked him for getting knocked out by a weakling. This loser should get out of there. Chu Ha-jin says he's sorry. Jae-kyung says that's enough. He never thought that guy could defeat Cheol-sang anyway. The delinquent asks about the second year, but Jae-kyung says he'll move on his own. If he keeps these two under his wing, his path to becoming Myung-wang would be closer. The next day, Woo-jae yawns while Hyunjin mentions that the other school leaders were determined. Cheol-sang wishes his seniors a good morning as he walks towards them, but Woo-jae walks right past him without answering, and Hyunjun is surprised. Cheol-sang is saddened by this. At the school store, the two are annoyed to see their favorite food is gone. Woo-jae complains it's a shitty day, and his friend agrees, but Cheol-sang shows up with the 2 slices of pizza, commenting that it was the most popular in school, just for his senior. Woo-jae replies that it's not his thing, and Hyunjun thanks him. Cheol-sang shouts that he can't just leave it like that. Woo-jae asks what he means. Cheol-sang replies that he should tell him what he likes, so we'll have it ready for him tomorrow. Woo-jae turns, asking if he's some kind of gangster to be served like that. Hyunjin jokes that he'll be the one tomorrow. Cheol-sang thinks that even if he's pushed away, he won't give up. But a few hours later, he wonders if it would be better to do just that. His friends ask what he's giving up on, and Cheol-sang replies that it's about senior Woo-jae, wondering why he didn't like him. Another friend comments that he was acting like he got rejected by a girl, and maybe he's just the type who doesn't open up, but at least he still has them by his side, so he should cheer up, and Cheol-sang smiles. He drinks his soda and thanks his friends, but a can hits him in the head. Jak-young says that if he's the freshman boss, he should come and pay his respects. Cheol-sang's delinquent friends stand up. Jak-young says he's gotten real slick. Cheol-sang asks if he thinks he's going to kneel just for being the freshman boss. The blonde replies that he seems ready to be the strongest. Cheol-sang asks why not, and Jak-young questions if he was planning on trying to take him down right now. Cheol-sang reflects that he never stood a chance against the Sunbae back in his school days, but seeing how he was acting like Haesong Hai's errand boy, he thinks he has a chance. Chu Ha-jin tries to rush forward, calling him a bastard, but Cheol-sang tells him to stay out of it, as this is a showdown between leaders. The chubby guy asks to leave it to him, but Jakyong raises his hand, asking how about they put that to the test. He advances quickly and tries to land a blow on his chin. Cheol-sang tries to react quickly and throws a punch, but Jakyong dodges. People gather to watch the fight and call the teachers. Jakyong tells him to go to the rooftop after class, as he's going to teach him some proper manners. Cheol-sang gets angry and lunges at him, saying they should settle things now, but the blonde refuses and moves his foot up to his face. He says this reminds him that if he's coming on his own, he should bring Woo-jae, since he'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Cheol-sang thinks that he would go for him. He has to defeat him no matter what. This was the only way he could forgive himself for once admiring and following him like an idiot. On the way to the aura room, Woo-jae asks what the chubby guy is staring at. Hyunjun says he hasn't seen him around. Cheol-sang was usually walking around and saying hi to them, and Woo-jae says just thinking about hearing that makes him mad. It was nice not having to deal with him. Hyunjun stares at the protagonist without saying a word. Woo-jae asks why he's doing that since it's creepy, but the chubby guy wants to know why he's pushing everyone away, and not just Cheol-sang. He's never seen the protagonist talk to anyone else. Hyeri and the others want to be friends with him, but he's always hostile. Woo-jae asks if he's worried about him being antisocial, and says he has things to do. All he cares about is defeating Myung-wang, or rather, Yang Son-tai. Hyunjin asks what that has to do with making friends, and the protagonist replies that it's all meaningless. In the end, it's just a transaction, and when he wants to stop, the friendship breaks. He wasn't interested in going down that road again. Hyunjin asks what about continuing to hang out with him, but the protagonist replies that he's not his friend, he's his informant, and that's it. A lot of things had changed while he was away, and almost everything was different. So he was his best bet as a spy, and Hyunjin jokes that it's him, a reliable informant. Woo-jae says, speaking of which, he wants to know how he knows so much about things like Dawn, Myungwang, and other schools, because he doesn't seem like a delinquent or a social butterfly, and Hyunjin replies that it's because of that website. It was called the Myungwang Battlefield, and everything was posted there in real time. Woo-jae asks if they don't have anything better to do, and the chubby guy says they find it fun, and the ranking stuff is interesting. The protagonist comments that it's immature and they should be studying if they're bored, but Hyunjun says he doesn't know if he's one to talk. Woo-jae yells that a student should study, and that he originally planned to focus on his studies. The chubby guy wants to know how his math performance was going, but it was going to be tomorrow, and he shouldn't blame him since he was the one who brought him to study in the first place. A delinquent calls out to Woo-jae and asks for help. The chubby guy comments that Cheol-sang is being beaten up by Jae-gyung's gang. Woo-jae questions if fighting is all they do, and why they are coming to him like this. Hyunjin asks if he's not going to help, but the protagonist replies that he's not going to lose his life. But he seriously wants to know if he didn't think it was cowardly to leave him like that, because a real friend would stick by his side until the fight is over. The delinquent understands this and yells that he wants to fight with him too, but he was no match for them and only got in his friend's way, so the only thing he could do for him was this, begging for the protagonist's help to save his friend Cheol-sang. Woo-jae looks back, remembering the past where Seontai said they had more enemies than expected, but he should stay close because he would protect him. The guy complains that he should stay calm because he's by his side, betting that they are best friends. Woo-jae calls Cheol-sang's friend and asks where that idiot is right now. A delinquent is thrown across the rooftop. Cheol-sang's group was defeated, with only him keeping his guard up, while Jae-kyung's group had minor bruises. He asks if that's the best he can do with that attitude, because they should put an end to this. Chu Haiji suggests that he finish off Cheol-sang. Jakyung tells him to feel free and just not to waver. Cheol-sang says the fight isn't over yet, so he can't leave, unless this madman wants to be beaten up again. Chu Haiji rushes forward with a punch while calling him a bastard, and Cheol-sang dodges, thinking that if he falls for a meaningless punch like that, he doesn't have time to entertain a meathead like him. He grabs Chu Haijin's head and knocks him out with his knee while telling him to get out of his way, if it's just one opponent for him. Rushing towards Jakyung, he tries a punch, but the blonde easily dodges. Jakyung moves his hands quickly, grabbing Cheol-sang's shirt and hand, telling him to stop this. Cheol-sang asks what happened to him while remembering his past. Then he holds Jakyung's hand, calling him Hyung right after. In the past, a delinquent hits Cheol-sang. Gyeongjun Bai, a third year from Ilsuk High, comments that this piece of shit was acting way too arrogant. Cheol-sang questions who he thinks he is to scare him, as he has no idea who they're messing with. Gyeongjun pretends to be scared while Namseok watches. That delinquent asks what he thinks he's doing, staring like that. Then he punches him in the face, telling him to look away. Cheol-sang raises his hand to defend himself and hits Gyeongjun in the face. The delinquent gets angry and hits him, but Namseok stops him by kicking the guy. Cheol-sang loses his breath for a few seconds, and his friend asks if he's okay. Namseok says that if he can't do it, they'll end it right there, telling him to get lost. Until suddenly, Jaekyung tells these idiots to stop, wanting to know who they think they are to take over Myeongwang. Namseok gets angry and calls him a bastard. Jaekyung comments that they were really feeling full of themselves, and it was time to teach them a lesson again. Namseok yells to knock out this bastard first. Then the man replies that he's right, and they should come at him, knocking out every single one of the Ilwon High underlings. Cheol-sang watches this with admiration as he clenches his fists. The fight ends with everyone lying on the ground. Jaekyung comments that it's clear who the winner is, and they should get out of there. Namseok questions who he is to be the judge, so the guy replies, asking why he doesn't come at him himself this time, since he's still more than enough to beat him up. Namseok tells his underlings they should get out, telling Jaekyung to just wait because he's going to make him beg for forgiveness, and the guy replies that he talks a lot but does absolutely nothing. Then he looks at the boys and asks if they're okay, but anyway, he wants to talk to Cheol-sang, wanting to know why he kept standing when he couldn't even fight. The boy replies that he just didn't want to let those idiots mock him. Jaekyung looks at him for a few seconds and laughs, saying he's got guts. Next time they should stay away from the alleys and walk on the main streets because he would see them at school. Then he walked away. That day completely changed Cheol-sang's life in middle school, and to him, Jaekyung wasn't just strong. The next day he calls out to his sunbae because he was rough and unpredictable. Jaekyung remembers him from the night before, and they start walking together. And that's how, in the beginning, Cheol-sung started following the group. But anyway, over time, they spent more time laughing and talking. Their friendship grew, and they became best friends. He started going to the rival schools' battles. His punches were slow at first, but being near him made him stronger, and time made their bond more solid. Cheol-sang opens the door and calls for his Hyung. He says he heard that high school selections were over, and wants to know where he's going. Jaekyung replies that he's going to Myeongwang. Cheol-sang questions this decision. Jaekyung answers that he had no doubts. It was a divine sign that he would become the Myeongwang, but the boy didn't know what that was. His friend explains that he probably doesn't know because he's a freshman, but it was like being the king of high school, the Lord of the Fists. Cheol-sang comments that it sounded epic, so he would go to Myeongwang High too. Jaekyung questions if a nerd like him would do that, saying he should be looking at science or private schools. Cheol-sang replies that if he's going to become the Myeongwang, he would help make it happen, wondering who else could be his right-hand man. Jaekyung laughs, saying that sounds good and he'll see him there. Until then, he should take care of middle school. He asks if he understands while holding out his fist. Cheol-sang fist bumps him. Sometime later, he graduated and left the school. And as the semester began, so did the competition with the neighboring schools. As the new leader of Myeongwang High, he has to defend the status he established. After tough fights and hard-won victories, he gained control of the surrounding schools. In the process, he ended up becoming famous. As the days went by, Cheol-sang sent messages to Jaekyung, but got no response. He wonders what was happening. He also can't see his profile and wonders if he's been blocked, but he decides to call him to test it. The phone says the dialed number is no longer in service. Cheol-sang puts his phone away and looks to the side, wondering if those guys in the alley weren't from Haesong High, but he notices Jaekyung is with them. The delinquent hands over the payment, saying it was for that month. Gyeonjun takes the paper, wanting to know what the hell this is, and why it was just an envelope. He hits him several times for still not knowing his place. He thinks he didn't hit him hard enough last time, so when he goes to slap him, Jaekyung pushes him away, telling him to get lost. Gyeongjun questions if the bastard is out of his mind. Jaekyung replies that this wasn't their deal, but Namseok puts a hand on his shoulder, commenting that it's very frustrating. He wants to know if he's joining the gang or not, because he has to cooperate if he wants them to speak well of him to the boss. Jaekyung shoves his hand away and replies that he'll do it right next time, so they should let this one slide. Namseok says he still can't cut it. He has a monthly quota to meet. If he keeps slacking off like this, they'll have to invade Myeongwang themselves. He asks if all his students should get beaten up like last time, imagining how pathetic they were. He's only doing this to save his face. Jaekyung replies that he's full of shit. He barely got a spot in the gang after beating up weaker kids, and now he's talking like he's in charge. He asks if he isn't embarrassed, and if this is his real ally. Gyeongjun asks what the hell he's talking about. Namseok bursts out laughing and asks if he wasn't the one who got defeated by younger kids. Jaekyung tells him to shut up. Namseok says he wasn't just beaten, he must have gone crazy, because in the end, he knelt in Gyeongjun's pants and begged for his life. Jaekyung grabs his shirt, screaming that he's a bastard. Namseok pushes his hand away and curses him. He asks if his brain works or if he's an idiot, since he heard Jimyong High was out for revenge. The leader of Dawn was going to become the new Myeongwang, and the gang members would take over their respective schools. So whatever he's planning, he'd better give up. They'll let it slide for now, but he shouldn't mess up next time. The Haesong High gang walks away, talking about going for a drink. Jak-young stays in the alley for a few seconds, then turns to leave, until he hears Cheol-sang call his name. Jak-young turns around, confused. Namseok asks if they know him, and Hyunjin replies that he's that idiot. Jak-young pushes the delinquent and tells them to go get their drinks. Cheol-sang pushes past some of the thugs looking for his Hyung, but Jak-young rushes forward and punches him in the face, asking what his problem is and that he should get out of there. Namseok tells him to take it easy, since he looked like his subordinate. Jak-young spits on Cheol-sang and says just because they went to the same school doesn't mean they're friends. The boy stays on the ground, wondering why. Over time, Jak-young starts bullying other students. Cheol-sang got into the school as planned, but when he saw him again, he hurt him. They both walk, but in opposite directions. Cheol-sang looks back, thinking that the person he once admired had been completely wiped from existence. Back in the present, he questions what the hell happened to him. Calling him Jak-young-hyung, the blonde asks who knows about that. He punches him in the stomach, saying he was always too talkative. Cheol-sang kneels on the ground from the force of the blow. One of his underlings crawls toward him. Jak-young crouches down and asks why his little friend hasn't returned yet. He wonders if he didn't run to ask that bastard Woo-jae for help, or maybe he went to save his own skin, since that's reality. No matter how much they talk about loyalty or friendship, everyone is selfish in the end. That's how it works. So he should stop acting so altruistic. Cheol-sang scoffs that he's really mastered the art of talking shit. It sounded like a lame excuse he used to sleep better at night. Jak-young tells Ha-jin to put him in his place so he won't act like that again. The chubby guy tells everyone to gather around. Cheol-sang hits his head on the ground. Jak-young warns that his arrogance ends here. Ha-jin walks toward the boy and prepares to kick. Cheol-sang watches the kick, but suddenly Ha-jin's face is hit. Everyone is surprised as Hyunjin finally arrives on the rooftop. Woo-jae says he is the hero of these chaotic times. He had just arrived. Jak-young comments that he finally showed up, but he had annoyed him a little. Hyunjin watches nervously until his phone starts to ring. His phone falls out of his pocket and onto the ground. Jak-young lunges forward with his fist. However, Woo-jae manages to dodge every single blow. He dodges with extreme ease while analyzing Jak-young. The delinquents comment that this bastard can't even touch Woo-jae, and from the looks of it, he might have a tough time knocking him out. Jak-young reflects that he had knocked out Namseok with ease. He quickly prepares a high kick, but he thought the rumors were exaggerated. Woo-jae loses his footing to block the kick. Jak-young asks what happened to his bravery from before, because this was pathetic now. Woo-jae quickly warms up his fist. The delinquent charges forward, saying he'll make sure he loses. Woo-jae backs into a wall and prepares to block the blow. He takes a hit from Jak-young. The boy suffers some damage from the situation, but the blonde advances, saying he'll see how he stops this. Woo-jae dodges the punch with ease. Then he strikes Jak-young's liver, who feels the pain from the blows. Finally, the protagonist quickly prepares and hits the delinquent's chin. Jak-young loses his center of balance. Woo-jae asks if he's already down, saying he was just warming up. The delinquent calls him a bastard as he gets up. He charges forward, yelling that he asked for this now. Woo-jae easily dodges the punch. He counterattacks with a blow to his waist, and then he strikes his temple with another kick. He finishes with a kick that sends his opponent flying. His friends are impressed and happy about it. Jak-young lands far away from the impact. His friends yell that they should all go help him at once, but the delinquent tells them to stay back. They shouldn't get in his way, just sit and watch, because he was going to finish this bastard today. Woo-jae tells him to listen to what he's saying. Even if he's the leader, they're still his friends. He thought he was something just because he could land a few hits, acting superior to his friends, and that just made him a thug. Jak-young gets up and takes off his jacket. He asks if he's done talking. Then he throws the jacket at him to block his vision. Woo-jae manages to see from the side. He sees that Jak-young is attempting a punch. The boy dodges with some difficulty. Jak-young counters with a blow to his gut. Woo-jae thinks to himself that his speed is something else, but Jak-young grabs his shirt. The protagonist sets his stance, getting hit multiple times in the ribcage. Jak-young thinks he's got him now, so he lunges forward again, trying an axe kick that's blocked by the protagonist. Then, the blonde steps back and prepares for a middle kick, but he changes its trajectory to a high kick. Hyunjin and Cheol-sang think the trajectory changed in half a second. Jak-young celebrates too early. Woo-jae loses his balance for a moment, but quickly recovers, because he had blocked the hit, thinking he's not just a thug and there's a reason he's the strongest. But that didn't change anything, even if he wanted it to, because in the end, he would still win. Jak-young thinks he's arrogant and rushes forward, saying he'll end this in one blow. Woo-jae rushes toward him quickly too, meeting with blows that both put their full strength into. Their two fists meet, causing an impact. repeating it with the other hand. Both feel pain from it, but Wu Jie thinks his other fist was the real problem, managing to land a perfect blow on Jaekyung's face. Everyone is shocked by this. Jaekyung curses him and looks to the side, seeing Cheol Sang, while thinking how embarrassing this was. Myeongwang High, where the first king was made, had been continuously oppressed by other schools from the beginning, but the school would rise once again, because he would carry on the legacy of Myeongwang in his first year. In the classroom, someone throws the door open. That delinquent slams his hand on a desk, saying that to make sure the juniors have an easier time at school, they need to pay a protection fee to their seniors. Jaekyung laughs, saying he can make extortion sound pretty, but he should stop ruining the legacy of the first Myeongwang and shut up. The delinquent asks what that asshole's problem is. Jaekyung asks why they don't just be more honest, and just say they're paying tribute to Haesong High. Another delinquent tells Jaekyung to shut his mouth, but the guy says to make him if they can. They all rush him, and so it began. In another room, a boy says he has no money because he paid last week. The delinquent asks if he ate yesterday, repeating the question when the boy doesn't answer, so he says yes. The delinquent asks if he ate today, and the boy says he only had breakfast. So Munsu keeps hitting him, saying he stuffs his face with food, but doesn't pay the protection fee, shouting for all the idiots to know who keeps them from being beaten up outside. If they want to keep coming to school without trouble, they'd better cooperate, until Jaekyung opens the door, asking if he hasn't given up on this yet. Munsu tells him to stay out of it, but the guy says to do something about it since he's only doing this because of his useless seniors. Munsu tells him to shut up. Jaekyung replies that if they were strong, they wouldn't be pushing this fee, and it's pathetic. That delinquent lunges at him while telling him to shut his mouth, but gets a backpack to the face. Then Jaekyung readies his hand in front of him, landing a painful flick. Jaekyung asks if this doesn't embarrass him, and wants to know if he'd like to take down the school together. They must take over Myeongwang High. Munsu cracks a smile, thinking he's one hell of a bastard. The next day, the whole group walks onto the rooftop. Jaekyung asks if they're ready to get out of there. The two groups charge, and like every fight, he gained more friends, always winning one battle after another. And then, in his second year, he believed he had the power to defeat anyone, so he would deal with the bastards from Haeseong first. Namseok says he must think he's a big deal, but he knows he can't be the strongest without his approval. Jaekyung says it feels like just yesterday he beat him up, and now he's acting like he's the boss of Haeseong, telling him to go to hell with his approval, because he should be ashamed to hang out with losers, because the name Dawn was pathetic. Namseok yells that they don't need to wait and can start the fight. Jaekyung takes down a few guys with his friends. The Haesong side does the same. Then the guy strikes Gyeongjun's stomach, using his shoulder as a base for a kick to Namseok's chin. He falls to the ground, and Jaekyung shouts that from this day on, they will take over Haesong. These bastards better bring it on, until he notices something to his side. A few motorcycles arrive and park. Byung-guk asks if those guys were already defeated so quickly. Namseok calls for his superior, and he says he showed respect like Seontae said, but he couldn't even knock out Jaekyung. The guy wonders if they're the idiots from the Dawn gang. A delinquent asks who the hell he is, and if he's from Haesong High too, charging forward, saying they'll crush them. Byung-guk readies his fist, saying they're useless trash, punching each one of them while saying that trash should stay away, almost punching Munsu in the face, as Jaekyung manages to block it with his kick. Byung-guk steps back, saying he's not so bad. Then he asks if they're just going to watch the fight, asking if he's going to handle this guy, because if he's scared, he can go after the weaklings. Hyokjin walks towards them. Byung-guk says they should see if he still knows how to do it. Jaekyung tells him to take off his glasses if he doesn't want to go blind. Hyokjin takes off his glasses right after and puts them in his jacket. That guy comments that he has a nasty look in his eyes. As the man prepares for the fight, Jaekyung is easily thrown aside, completely defeated, breathing heavily. Byung-guk asks if Munsu isn't going to open his mouth like before. Jaekyung thinks they could stop, that it's enough, yelling for them to get the hell out. Because he lost, and they should just stop it, please. Namseok and Gyeongjun think it serves him right to say that. Byung-guk replies that this is too boring. Hyokjin gets angry at this and kicks Jaekyung away. The guy wonders if this was all he could do. Another day at school, they're resting on a couch, wondering if this was really as far as he could go. Munsu asks if he heard that Jinwon from the third year was defeated, and can't believe someone so weak was the strongest in their school. If they had just beaten him up first and taken his place, but he notices his friend is down. So he asks why the other guys aren't here yet, until he looks back and sees the guys from Haesong, as Namseok asks if they're holding up well. Munsu asks what the hell they think they're doing here, until he notices something and asks why his friends are on the other side. Namseok replies that they were smarter than the losers, for sure. Munsu asks what the hell he just said. Namseok replies that everyone knows the school is trash, but recently it's been a laughingstock. Even though it's where the legacy began, everyone is weak. Munsu asks who he thinks their leader is, and Jae-kyung says he's full of shit and asks if he's looking for a fight. The bald guy asks what's with the attitude, saying he came to defend him, and if he's planning on getting revenge, he shouldn't even think about it because he'll be digging his own grave. Jae-kyung glares at him coldly, filled with anger, saying they'll see who runs in the end and that he should call his gang because he's going to settle the score from last time soon. Namseok asks about Hyokjun because he's a first year from Cheonggu High, and that giant was a first year from Mokjong High. The Dawn Alliance comes from the southern part of the Yunha River. Not only does their boss come from a rich family, but he's also strong enough to crush anyone and would restore Myungwang's legacy. Jae-kyung asks if he's seriously going to talk about guys younger than him, and Namseok says he's in no position to talk bad about these little delinquents. He should hear that Dawn was going to be the center of Taeyang, and the city of Hamyang was heading there. The guy says he talks too much and should get to the point. Namseok tells him to stop acting like that because he's going to cooperate with him. If he does, he'll acknowledge him as the strongest at Myungwang High. If he keeps this up, he and his partner will have a tough time. Jae-kyung yells that he's an arrogant bastard, and Munsu tells him to calm down. Gyeongjin says that from now on, they'll use him to say what they want. Munsu asks if he not only betrayed him, but is also going to be an errand boy, and the delinquent replies that it wasn't that cool. Namseok shouldn't make things worse by trying to be the Myungwang. It's better to just play school leader and make some money. He has to survive in this world, and he'll see how much more he offers. Only then will he see the guy who will take down his leader, someone the same age as him, going around to different schools to claim the title of Myungwang. Jae-kyung thinks he remembers Yugman Kang now. He had to hold back for now. No matter how humiliating it was, he would have to swallow his pride. Namseok comments that since he's cooperating now, nobody got hurt, which is good. He says he'll deposit 10% into his account. The chance for revenge was coming, and Jae-kyung would make it happen. He had been enduring for this very moment. The boy asks where he can find the other guys from Dawn. Namseok replies that things have been tense, and he's already spoken to them. Gyeongjun shouts for Namseok, yelling that something was posted on the Myungwang battlefield. The 16th Myungwang was completely defeated by the Hamyang City Alliance. Namseok looks at his phone, startled. He comments that Dawn was calling him. Munsu asks who that guy was, and Jae-kyung replies that he's leaving. The next day, he goes to Jimyong High, wondering who this guy was and how strong he had become. The Myungwang who could fight the Hamyang City Alliance. Then he shouts, demanding to know who Youngmun Kang is. He should show himself and see the face of the self-proclaimed Myungwang. Two delinquents ask who this idiot is, making all this noise in the hallway, and if some moron from Myungwang High was looking for trouble. Jae-kyung replies that he has no time for underlings and asks about Yugmon. The two advance, wanting to know who the hell he thinks he is. Jae-kyung dodges a punch and grabs his hand, throwing him to the ground. Then he looks to the side and kicks the other delinquent. He falls to the other side of the hall, and Jae-kyung grabs the delinquent's hair, asking if he doesn't know they can't mess with Myungwang High. But Jae-kyung replies that he doesn't care about that, until he notices something and attempts a high kick. Both delinquents turn and call out for Youngmun. The Myungwang manage to block the kick. Jae-kyung wonders if this idiot was him. Youngmun throws his jacket on the floor and asks why he's doing this here. The boy asks if he's the one who took down the entire Hamyang City Alliance. The Myungwang asks if that's what he's talking about, and Jae-kyung tells him to answer the question. Then Yugmon sighs deeply. He comments that he thought things would quiet down, but seeing delinquents like him, it was too soon to relax. Jae-kyung charges forward with his fist, calling him a bastard, but Youngmon just blocks it easily, holding his hand tightly as Jae-kyung lunges again, telling that bastard to get out of the way. Youngmon moves quickly and blocks his strike, counterattacking in a single motion. He replies that this answers his question, and Jae-kyung thinks that he wasn't just going to talk. Youngmun tells him to leave, as there's no need to cause more trouble. The delinquent says he's heard what kind of guy he is, so he figured they were on the same page. Youngmun asks what he means. Jae-kyung replies that he needs help to defeat the guys from Dawn. That guy asks if that's what he went through all this trouble for. Jae-kyung asks what he means, saying he seriously doesn't know who he's dealing with. Youngmun says that if it's about the freshmen, he already talked to them earlier, and they were all better than him too. Jae-kyung replies that if he just sits back, they will just play them as planned, like they did to him, and that's why they need to take them down. Youngmun asks why he should do that, and the boy replies that he's the Myungwang, but that king bursts out laughing, asking since when is the Myungwang some kind of hero. Jae-kyung asks why he did it then, why he crushed the Hamyang Alliance. Youngmun replies that it was because they messed with people from his school. Jae-kyung questions this, and the guy replies that as the student council's vice president, nothing was more important. Besides, Dawn hasn't touched his school, so he has no reason to get involved. As long as his school is safe, that's enough for him. He doesn't care about anything else. Jae-kyung asks, and what about when Dawn messes with Jimyong High? Youngmun slams the table and says Myungwang High was off limits, and they know the unspoken rule. Even when he took the title and gathered all sorts of information, he got a good idea of what Dawn is and what they're planning, but he won't let them do it. Not as long as he's the Myungwang. Jaekyung comments that they'll see how long his arrogance lasts. Youngmon replies that he's the arrogant one here, because he's heard about him too, but for another Myungwang to show up and act like this is the height of arrogance, especially in front of the Myungwang himself. Jaekyung turns away, saying whatever, and that he'll see what he does next time. Youngmon says he knows no one can do anything alone. He didn't take down Hamyong City and become Myungwang by being strong on his own, so he shouldn't waste his efforts on Dawn, because he'll just be playing into their hands, and he shouldn't lose on his own again. Jaekyung replies that he's had enough of this and leaves, running into the two guys from before. Youngmon shows a bruise on his hand, saying that kid was a hothead, but it seemed like he has real talent, and that was too bad. Suddenly, Jongjin opens the door. Youngmon nods at him, and not long after, a storm of changes began to sweep through the schools of Taeyang City. Elsewhere, Jaekyung is smoking, wondering if Cheol-sang was doing okay, but he remembers beating him up and grips his phone tightly. Munsu comments that the strongest guys in all the schools were from Dawn. He knows they're strong, but this was bullshit. Jaekyung starts laughing at that, wondering what kind of face he was making right now. Before he knew it, Dawn had taken over most of the schools in Taeyang. Even the street gangs were under their control. Even though he was the leader of Myungwang High, he wasn't part of Dawn and was being pushed around by Hai Seong High. He started to get used to the angry stares as the third years were defeated. Jaekyung wonders if this was really how it all ended, but he denies it, thinking he wouldn't give up like this. A student offers a card with about 1,000,000 won on it. Two delinquents accept it, saying he was a good friend, and Jaekyung got suspended because of him, wondering what they should do with him. Jaekyung watches coldly and hands him a piece of candy, saying he heard rats go crazy for this stuff. He should eat it, and then asks, "So, what does rat poison taste like?" The guy starts coughing, trying to spit out the candy, but Jaekyung replies that it was just candy, holding his mouth shut while warning him to get lost before he sets up a mousetrap. Munsu calls Jaekyung and asks how he feels after a week off, calling him an idiot as he approaches. He mentions that it was Haiji he talked about before, and he's at Buksung High. Chu Haiji introduces himself and yells that Munsu has told him a lot about him, because he's gonna back him up now. Munsu comments that he's really strong and can easily beat 3 or 4 guys from Haesong. Jaekyung says that, speaking of which, he wants to know why Namseok has been so quiet recently. Munsu asks if he hasn't heard, saying he definitely thought he knew. Jaekyung tells him to just spit it out. The guy replies that they were defeated by a second-year transfer student the other day. At that moment, Jaekyung felt a small glimmer of hope. Munsu says it took less than 2 hits, and apparently Namseok first went up against a freshman. His name was Cheol-sang. He was the strongest at Myungwang Middle School, and he seemed decent. Jaekyung recognizes the name, and Munsu continues, saying that with Hajin and these two, they could get some things done. With them by his side, the boy could become the Myungwang. He starts regaining consciousness, thinking he's going to do it. Munsu yells for him to wake up while Jaekyung thinks he is the Myungwang. His friends ask if he's okay. Woo Jae walks away as his friends watch in shock, commenting that he seems to be awake. Jaekyung asks what happened, but then he remembers and looks to the side, coming face to face with Woo Jae, wondering if he lost, but he tries to get up because it isn't over yet, telling that bastard to come at him. However, he falls to the ground, and Munsu calls out to his friend. Jaekyung tells him to get out of his way, asking what he's talking about because it's useless and annoying. He should just get lost. Woo Jae wonders if this is a civil war. Munsu repeats for them to please stop. Jaekyung asks if he's trying to take him down. Then he punches him in the face, telling him to go to hell. Munsu grits his teeth and says yes, and that he's sorry because he knows better than anyone that he's just a burden, so they should just stop there, begging him. Woo Jae replies that if they fight again, the outcome won't change, and he must admit he lost. Hyunjin says he's not sure if it was time for him to step in. Jaekyung thinks he would lose once more, and he can't back down now because he still has to fight. He begins to tremble as Munsu questions what he can do shaking like that. He wants to know what Jaekyung thinks about them too. They were worried about him, so they should stop there. Jaekyung wonders about stopping here. Munsu warns that they've lost their lives. Woo Jae watches from a distance, and then turns his face away. He asks what his friends are waiting for, saying they have to leave. Cheol-sang looks at his former idol on the ground. They both stare at each other as the day ends. Woo Jae asks if he's coming, and the boy says yes. He runs after them until the door closes. He looks at Jaekyung with concern one last time. In the school hallway, he calls out to his son-bai. He apologizes for dragging him into his fight, and says he really appreciates his help. Woo Jae asks what he's talking about. He heard that he could become the strongest after taking down Myungwang. In that case, there are 3 schools left. If he defeats them all in a week, it'll be over in less than a month. Hyunjin asks if he's underestimating it, because going against the other schools won't be easy. As he said before, he'd better start getting ready. Woo Jae asks, "For what?" The chubby guy replies that he needs companions, but the protagonist still thinks it's unnecessary. Hyunjin asks if he thinks the other students will let him fight their leader so easily. They would protect their school, so he would get tired before even reaching the boss. The chubby guy quickly confirms this. He says that he needs help, especially if he plans to fight Myungwang. Cheolsang replies that's them, and asks if his friends are coming too. Woo Jae asks why he always gets in his space, and Hyunjin thinks he could become a decent ally. He says these guys are exactly what they need because they don't just follow him for being absurdly good at fighting. Maybe it's because of his overwhelming charisma. To be honest, he doesn't really hate Cheolsang and even ate the pizza he bought. Everyone is surprised by this. Woo Jae covers the chubby guy's mouth, saying he gave him money to pay him back. Cheolsang cries, and Hyunjin continues, saying they don't expect much from him. Woo Jae calls out to everyone, and they respond. Then he asks if they think they can keep their heads down and not screw things up. Everyone confirms, and Woo Jae tells them to do whatever they want. Cheolsang asks if this means they can follow him, and Hyunjin confirms it for them. Everyone celebrates and starts walking behind their sunbae. Hyunjin thinks it's finally over and checks his phone. He sees a group where people are betting on Jaegyong, but the chubby guy argues that Woo Jae won and runs after them. A few days later at Jimyong High, some students are arguing because one borrowed money and hasn't paid it back yet. The chubby guy says he's complaining so much over chump change. He managed to get money to bet, but not to pay back his friend. The big guy then punches him in the face. He grabs a chair while saying he wasn't in a bad mood. All the students are stunned as the chubby guy was about to beat up his friend, but the chair is stopped, and Jongjin tells him to put it down. Everyone comments on this as the boy stares him down. The big guy yells for him to let go, so Jongjin throws him away. That big guy complains that he's a self-righteous jerk, but he goes silent when he sees the chair in front of him. Jongjin asks what was going on there. The boy mentions that the big guy took his money to bet and still hasn't paid him back. Jongjin asks about a bet and says he'll take this to the student council office. Elsewhere, a cashier announces that the food will cost 93,000 won. The chubby guy says he'll pay. This surprises Hak-young and Kim, who were taking out their cards. Walking outside, Kim asks why he's been paying so much recently, and the chubby guy replies that they paid way more before. Hak-young asks if that really matters. Kim says no, but it's really strange, because he suddenly got a new phone, and his new backpack and shoes are even from expensive brands. The chubby guy asks if he can't have nice things like that. Kim asks why he's acting this way. He was just saying he's been spending a lot. That chubby guy says that's enough of all this. He wants to know if they're going to the internet cafe to digest their food. He tells them to follow him, while Kim remarks that something isn't right. Elsewhere, Jongjin says it's clear that a significant number of students were involved in this. It was Lunette, an illegal betting site. Youngmun says it's finally spreading to their school too. Jongjin asks if he knows about it as well. The boy explains that he recently heard rumors that some school thugs teamed up to do this, but he never thought something so absurd would be true. Jongjin replies that only students can use it, and they use coins instead of money, so it probably seemed like a game to them. Youngmun replies that they should postpone the emergency student council meeting until tomorrow, and Jongjin agrees. But anyway, he comments that he found a lot in a short amount of time. He started looking into it because of all the recent student fights, and it's part of his job as a council member. So this could get more complicated since other schools are involved. It all leads to copies of student IDs or youth cards that link to a website. Myungwang Hai was handling that part, and Youngmun thinks it was him. Jongjin says Haseong was taking a lot of money from these kids who lose, and Mokjong Hai was in charge of scaring them into paying it back. Youngmun recognizes the names of all the schools, and Jongjin tries to say who was behind it all, but his friend finishes for him. It was Dawn. He thinks that if he hadn't lost the title of Myungwang, he could have solved this. Jongjin asks if he's planning to take back his place, but Youngmun questions if he could really defeat him if they fought again. He thinks that if he had listened to Jakyung that day, things would be different. Youngmun calls to Jongjin, asking why he doesn't become Myungwang instead. The boy asks what he's talking about, but dodges a punch from him. Jongjin wants to know what he's doing. Youngmun throws his fist once more, but it's blocked. Then the boy replies that he knew it. It was him, that hooded man. It was his turn to protect Jimyoung now. Jongjin Nam must go and win the title of Myungwang. The boy asks what his sunbae is going to do about the hole. Youngmun runs off, saying he just remembered he had plans, and Jongjin calls out to his sunbae, but he clenches his fist, thinking there's no running from this anymore. Elsewhere, Byunguk crushes a can and asks where the hell they were. Namseok says he'll call Jonghyung, but the two of them walk through the door. Byunguk throws the can, asking where they've been. The nerdy guy easily catches the can. Byunguk asks what's the point of having a motorcycle cycle if he's always late. Then he calls him a bastard. Jonghyun replies that the Lunette meeting took longer than they expected. Profits have been stagnant for a few weeks, and as expected, they were only targeting students with clear limitations. Namseok was handling things at Myungwang High, but now they're planning to place a leader in each school. They are also going to open Lunette to other areas in a month. Namseok asks if the deadline isn't too short, because if they increase the interest rate like that. Jonghyun replies that Lunette can be quite profitable, but it has many limitations and weak security. The next project is almost ready anyway. Namseok asks what will happen to him if Lunette ends. Jonghyun tells him not to worry, because they still need their sunbae. Byunggook says he's a smartass kid, but anyway, he wants to know about the thorn in the side of the gang loan sharks recently, because he knows how impossible it is to collect from them. Hyukjun and Mercury wouldn't hunt those guys down. Namseok replies that it's difficult to control the new leader of Myungwang. Byunggook asks who the new leader is, and Namseok answers hesitantly. Then the giant says it must be that bastard Woo Jae. He asks if Hyukjun would really defy Seontai's orders. The boy tells him to shut up. He'll deal with it. Byunggook asks if he wants him to step in, or if he's hesitating because they used to be friends. He wants to know why Seontai even accepted him, since once a traitor, always a traitor. Hyukjun rushes forward, telling him to shut his mouth, and Byunggook runs at him, saying they should settle this now. However, the fight is stopped by Jonghyun. He replies that he doesn't want to be disrespectful to the others, so they should stop right there. They both stare at each other, and Byunggook turns away, saying that as a leader, he must be honorable. Jonghyun responds that he hopes he won't go against Seontai's instructions. The chubby guy comments that he's a bit lost, and the nerd asks why he wasn't targeting Jin Seong. It wouldn't be easy to get them into his gang. Byunggook says there's someone he wants to deal with no matter what. Just then, Rhea arrives and Byunggook asks why she's late. The girl replies that she was busy, as he knows. Byunggook says she looked like a little fox and the girl complains about it. But anyway, Jonghyun had called the person next to him. Byunggook recognizes who that guy was. This catches Namseok and Hyukjun's attention, but the nerd welcomes him, saying he was happy to see him, because he would help Lunette at Jimyong High School, and help them too. In a forest in Mokjong, some delinquents order the guys to get on their knees. These bastards from Jinseong should be ashamed of themselves by now. Byunggook thinks they're nothing, and that idiot Jonghyun was causing trouble for no reason. He wonders if the guy who fought last time wasn't their leader. He has to run to him while he's messing with Jinseong, and when he does, he'll crush him to pieces. Elsewhere, some students are talking. One of them says there's an event, and if they sign up, they'll get 100,000 coins. The other two comment that it's incredible and they just need to send their student ID and youth card. The guy says that's right, and that he'll send the link because it's super easy, but someone arrives and calls out for Sangmin. He gets scared of Chu Hajin and Munsu. In a warehouse, they push Sangmin and throw him to the ground. Munsu asks if Jaekyung didn't tell them not to do this at school, and if he's ignoring that now. Sangmin hits the wall, asking what else he was supposed to do. Jaekyung hasn't shown up at school and isn't even answering his calls. The bastards from Haesung were coming after him every day, and it doesn't matter what he said, because he'll do anything to survive. Munsu says he should have told them things were like this. Sangmin asks what difference that would have made, since there's nothing they could do. Sangmin gets up from the floor and walks away. He says he's too ashamed and has had enough, so they should just look the other way. Munsu and Chu Hajin hang their heads low, but then the guy kicks a can away. He asks what class Cheolsang was in because he needed to talk to him. The next day on the rooftop, Woo Jae is annoyed as the delinquents hang their heads. Hyungju scratches his head, and the protagonist sighs. He says he told Cheolsang to stay quiet, and he said he could, which the guy confirms. So Woo Jae replies that he was wrong to trust him. The delinquent answers that it was a misunderstanding. Cheolsang denies it, and everyone shuts him up. That delinquent says that because he shook up Yaekyung's gang, all these guys who hated him started acting up. But since they don't have the guts to take him down, they formed groups and started picking fights with them just for being close to him. The guys tried to stay away at first because of their promise, but they can't just be pushed around forever. So they were just trying to keep him out of fights. Therefore, they tried to handle it themselves, and Woo Jae hits him on the head, saying that hardheads stick together. He wants to know if they think he only keeps them around to be his underlings. Hyungjin tells Woo Jae that it doesn't look like they started anything. Ever since he defeated Jaekyung, things like this were bound to happen. Woo Jae thinks for a moment. The chubby guy replies that's why they were going to do something. Woo Jae asks what, and he tells him to show them who the boss of Myungwang is. The damn rooftop door bursts open. Some delinquents ask if he thinks he can just come to their rooftop because he defeated Jaekyung, and asks if he's Woo Jae, because nobody said he could fight. The real leader of Myungwang was him, Ji-hwan No, who lunges forward with a punch. Woo-jae easily dodges and lands an uppercut on his chin. Ji-hwan is thrown back, leaving everyone stunned. The protagonist comments that he was annoyed because his real fight is with someone else, but they were bothering him, so he was ready to end this. The delinquents watch as Woo-jae shows them how it's done. At dusk, near the bridge where the betrayal happened, Hyukjun takes off his glasses, remembering the moment Seontae said he had to become the Myungwang. So he abandoned Woo-jae, who gets up and asks how that was a reason, telling Seontae to stop as he falls to the ground. Then, a friend calls out to Woo-jae and tells him Hyukjun is there. The guy runs to him and calls his name, but Hyukjun's eyes were red. Seontae appears and says he's twisted. Of all places, he wants to know why here, and Hyukjun puts his glasses back on. He says there's no better place to get Woo-jae than here, but he wants to know why he came back after getting beaten like that, and Seontae replies it must be for revenge. More importantly, he wants to ask him to hold Woo-jae off for a long time. Hyukjun replies that it seems he doesn't trust him. Seontae says they've been friends since elementary school, so he thought he would always be by his side. But 2 years ago, he sided with Woo-jae, so he thinks he's a little hurt by that, and he should understand. Hyukjun replies that he thought he did the right thing and still does, so if it happened again, he would make the same choice, and Seontae agrees. The guy comments that his strange obsession hasn't changed at all. He should even look at the symbol of dawn with that girl. But Seontae takes off his glasses, throws them on the ground, and steps on them. Hyukjun asks what the hell he just did, and Seontae tells him to keep in mind that he's not the one who should be angry, because the anger is for Woo-jae, and if he finishes him this time, he will trust him completely. Commenting that the new glasses looked good on him, Hyukjun keeps looking straight ahead. From a distance, Byung-guk asks if that bastard is talking shit about Seontae, and Jonghyun says he doubts it. He's been even quieter recently, probably because of Woo-jae. Byung-guk asks if that's really it. The nerd asks who he thinks would win if they fought, and Byung-guk replies it had better be Hyukjun. Jonghyun agrees, because there's no stronger fuel than his anger for Woo-jae. Byung-guk says he doesn't care who wins, because if he loses, he could deal with Woo-jae himself, just like he did last time. Jonghyun says there's no need for him to get involved, because even if someone fails, there was someone more precise to eliminate Woo-jae. Byung-guk thinks that clever bastard is planning something. The nerd replies that he should worry about dealing with Jinsung first, since the guy who fought him before was from there. Now it was time to go after the real target, and Byung-guk wonders how he knows that. Then he takes out his phone, looks at a picture of the chubby guy, and comments that he's going to finish the job, and he had gotten the bait he needed. Hak-young's sister opens the door and asks why Kim is there at this hour. He waves at Ha-yoon. His mother says if there's a guest, he should come in, seeing that it's Gi-young. Kim says good evening to Hak-young's mother, and asks where he was. The guy enters the room and asks what he's doing in the dark. Then he smacks him on the head, saying a friend shows up and he doesn't even say hello. But Hak-young turns on the light and calls his friend. He had just gotten out of the shower. Gi-young turns around, startled, and Pil-young stands up. The guy apologizes to him. He just ignores it and says he put his clothes in the wash. Then he walks out and tells him to have fun. Hak-young says they will, and as soon as the door closes, Kim asks if he put his dad in a chokehold. The legend of his school and the second Myungwang had been taken down by him, and Hak-young replies that it was all good. But Kim notices he still has the stuffed animal. He asks if he's not going to give it back, and Hak-young says he was going to but didn't get the chance. Kim tells him to make an opportunity, and to stop acting weird around girls. He replies that he just wants to be careful, remembering Hak-young at school when the girls rejected him. Kim replies that he should be careful with that face, and Hak-young calls him a bastard. His friend adds that he has a good heart, and someone will eventually notice. Then, the door suddenly opens. Ha-yoon says her mom told her to give you this, and Kim thanks her. The girl stares at them for a few seconds, but then she turns away. Hak-young tells him not to mind it, saying she's like that sometimes. Kim says it's okay, and that he knows why she always acts that way. If only he hadn't been involved in that thing back in middle school. Hak-young replies that it's in the past and he's quit all that sports stuff. Kim remembers that Ha-eun goes to Myeongwang High and suggests he could give it to her to deliver to the girl instead. Hak-young refuses, saying he should give it to her himself. Kim asks if they should go there tomorrow. Speaking of which, he asks if he remembers the guy they saw last time. Hak-young asks, what about him? Kim replies that he's now the strongest at Myungwang. Hak remembers he said he was going to mess with Hyeri, but never did. Kim denies it, saying they're friends from the same class. Hak-young replies that he doesn't believe it. Gi-seong explains that in middle school he started a gang called Dawn, and its first leader was Woo-jae, but he got expelled and left. He wonders if it's someone with the same name, because if it's that Woo-jae, he would be famous. Hak-young asks why he's so interested in him, but Kim denies it. He just wants to know about the school, because not long ago some guys were totally beaten up by the Mokjong school, and Byung-guk was involved. Hak Young asks what that has to do with anything. Kim explains he was going to involve his school in illegal activities using Lunette, an illegal betting site, to threaten students. Hak Young replies that's pathetic. Kim says what worries him is that Chang Ho might get caught up in this pathetic mess. The guys from Mokjong have been hanging around school looking for him. It's only a matter of time before the two of them face off. If they fight again, I'll make sure he can never set foot in this school again. Hak Young shouts that he'll show him how strong he is, but he rips an arm off the plushie. Kim says he's going to Chang Ho's house tomorrow anyway. Elsewhere, he runs into an abandoned building, but several motorcycles pull up. Chang Ho tries to shield himself from the lights as Byung-guk greets him, asking how that bastard has been. At school, the guys thought Woo Jae was strong, but what they saw on the rooftop that day was completely insane. It wasn't just a victory, it was justice and complete domination. He wasn't bluffing. He could really become the next Myung-wang. They were clearly wrong about him. He's in a different league entirely, but admiring him isn't enough. If they want to help him get to the top, they'll need to get stronger. A delinquent comments that hanging out on the rooftop gives off a total MMC vibe, which obviously stood for Myung-wang's main crew. Hyungjun and Cheol-sang think they can't believe they have to deal with this guy, but Woo Jae smacks him on the head, saying he's making jokes without even knowing why he comes up here. Youngjun replies that he's been doing it during every break, not just lunch. Woo Jae says he's been feeling uncomfortable. At some point, people started avoiding him or acting weird around him, and it hasn't been easy. He just figured it would be better to stay out of everyone's way. Youngjun replies that he's the leader now, so maybe the others are just trying to be careful. Woo Jae says that, in the end, he's just another thug. His friend calls his name, but Cheol-sang says that avoiding it won't fix anything. He asks why he doesn't just own it, since he's not like Jae-kyung. And then, if he becomes Myung-wang, he'll still be different from the others. Woo Jae thinks that he's right, and avoiding it won't change a thing. He came back because he can't keep running away, but he says to wait a second, realizing he just agreed with a hard head. Everyone turns to Cheol-sang, and Woo Jae says he was right, because he's going to show them that he's different. But that goes for all of them too. They have to prove they're not like the rest. Munsu shows up wondering if it's charity day, but he says he needs to talk to Cheol-sang in a classroom at another school. Some students from the disciplinary committee are blocking other students from passing, while two of them look apprehensive. A nerd hits a classmate, asking if they all showed their bank accounts and talked about them, saying it shouldn't be that hard. Then he turns and hits another guy, asking what's the point of having a brain if he doesn't use it. He slams his hand on the wall next to a girl, asking if she thinks he didn't hit her because she's a girl. She says that's not it. The girl says that he got a new phone and other things, so he brought in results. If she doesn't do the same, then she'll have to pay in another way. But the door suddenly opens and everyone calls out Jongjin's name. The nerd replies that they were fighting over the girl, so he stepped in to warn them. Jongjin looks to the side and asks if he can have a moment. The nerd says that even if he is the president, it's a bit much for him to meddle in the disciplinary committee's affairs. Jongjin says yes, but there's a rumor that the committee is involved in some kind of illegal betting called Lunette. He asks if the Sunbai would care to explain. The guy says he's acting like this when he knows exactly what's going on. Jongjin repeats that he's asking for an explanation. The Sunbai says that ever since Youngman lost its title, the other schools have been provoking them non-stop, and now they're ready. Since a war takes money. And since the commissions were good, they kept it going. If Jongjin cares about the school, he should stay out of it, because the committee will handle it. Jongjin repeats that this conversation is going nowhere, and says he will escalate this to Youngman. The guy stands up, saying that student discipline should be about reform, not punishment, but he'll make an exception for him. Saying he always acts so righteous, it's no surprise they call him Little Youngman. Jongjin replies that he'll regret saying that. The committee leader says he wants to see how far he'll take this act. Then the guy says the committee needs a reform, including him. The committee leader rushes forward with his fist, but Jongjin dodges, making him hit his own friend. The guy asks what the hell just happened, but he ends up with his hands trapped. He screams that it hurts like hell. Another chubby guy charges, telling him to let him go, but Jongjin changes his grip and moves the council leader into the chubby guy's fist. He asks what the hell that idiot was doing, because they weren't supposed to do anything. Jongjin kicks his leg and the leader screams again that it hurts. Then the vice president of the council comments that he mentioned someone beating people for money, asking if it was from Dawn, but the man screams it was Myungwang. At Jinsong High, the teacher announces he's going to the faculty room for a second and tells them to stay focused on their work. Hak Yong screws a part onto his machine until someone calls him over and asks him to take a look at something. He gets pissed off watching the video. Byung-guk says his friend dodged something and they have unfinished business, so it was time for them to face off. Hak Yong throws the phone on the ground. He grabs the student by his shirt, asking what the hell this is. He replies that he doesn't know, and the guys from Mokjong made him deliver it. Gisyong bursts through the door, yelling and asking what happened to Changho, but seeing his friend, he says he must have seen it already. They both run, telling Changho to wait. Elsewhere, they find Mokjong's sign. They end up in a forest. Cheolsang asks what they want and why they brought him here. Munsu replies that he heard he and Jaekyung were close in middle school, so it pisses him off when he acts like he hates it. To him, Jaekyung is a thing of the past. Then he walks away with Chu Hai-jin, but Cheolsang tells Jaekyung to come to school, and then they can settle things once and for all. Outside, he finds Woo Jae and Hyunjin watching. The protagonist asks why the chubby guy was spying on people, and he plays it off. Munsu tells Woo Jae not to get arrogant just because he's the strongest in the school. He needs to start building his gang and taking shape. The real fight is just beginning. Woo Jae asks if that's a threat. Munsu says he just doesn't want the school to be humiliated again. Hyunjin asks if the Sunbai can explain in more detail. Munsu replies that at least he has some manners, unlike that idiot. Woo Jae gets angry. Munsu explains that now that he's the strongest, they'll start showing up because they want him on their side. The dawn will come for him. Since Woo Jae already defeated Haesung's strongest, he should build his own gang. But Woo Jae replies that he'll crush those bastards by himself. Munsu tells him to stay calm and to let him know if he needs help, because he has his own scores to settle. Woo Jae wonders if they would show up in person, and it was perfect because he wouldn't have to waste his time on nobodies, but they should all come because he'll crush them one by one, whether it's the Dawn or Seante. In Mokjeon Forest, they finally arrive. Byung-guk grins and says he was right there, because he was waiting for him with his entire gang. Kim sees Chang-ho tied to a tree and asks what they're doing there. Byung-guk says they're having some kind of friendship meeting. Hak-yong tells him to cut the crap and just come at him. The underlings move, but Byung-guk tells them to stop, because they weren't getting involved. It would be just him and Hak-yong in a fair fight. The young man agrees, but tells him to release his friend first. Byung-guk nods to a bald guy. He drops Chang-ho to the ground, and Byung-guk suggests a bet. If he loses, Jin-sung will have to obey them. Hak-yong asks what he gets if he wins. Byung-guk replies that he'll clear Chang-ho's debt, which isn't a bad deal. Hak-yong says he's in, and the delinquent smiles. Then he lands a punch on his face. Hak-yong turns, wounded, and counterattacks with a kick to the ribs. Both of them plant their feet on the ground. Next, Byung-guk lunges forward with a grapple. The crowd comments that Hak-yong managed to block the charge. The man just gets angry and starts hitting his back. Hak-yong notices this and moves his heel, throwing Byung-guk to the ground with a swift move. Kim asks where he learned those moves. Byung-guk falls on his back, and Hak-yong brings his hand down on him. The delinquent manages to dodge the fist and asks what's the point of moving blindly. Then he quickly moves onto Hak-yong's arm, warning that the moment he's caught, it's all over. Kim calls out for his friend, and Byung-guk adds that he's going to break his arm to make sure he never moves again. Hak-yong feels the pain from the grip but moves his fist, striking his opponent several times. Byung-guk tells him to hit as many times as he wants, because this was the end for his arm, until he notices what's happening and says it's impossible. Hak-yong was managing to lift him with pure brute force. His underlings comment that he's a monster. Hak-yong warns that he's going to smash him into the ground, throwing the delinquent, who quickly loses consciousness. Then he says that this is the end. Byung-guk keeps holding on with his arm, saying he won't finish anything, kicking his face while calling him an asshole. He then falls to the ground, and both of them back away. Byung-guk thinks that he tried to break his arm, but he fought back. He was some kind of monster. Hak-yong realizes he has no strength left, and thinks maybe he pushed himself too hard. The delinquent notices that his arm is dislocated. Both of them rush towards each other. Hak-yong throws a punch, but Byung-guk ducks, countering with several punches to his midsection. However, he disappears, and the young man wonders where he went. Byung-guk asks what the hell he's going to do with a dislocated right arm, because he was the one about to be defeated. Everyone thinks it's all over, and Kim yells for him to stop. Hak-yong wonders if he noticed and let his guard down, getting caught in a suplex. Chang-ho calls out to his friend. Hak-yong tries to use his strength and lands an elbow on Byung-guk. He wonders how this guy still has that kind of strength. Hak-yong says he's going to throw him all at once and grabs his shirt and collar, throwing him towards the ground. A loud thud can be heard. Byung-guk gets up, saying his right arm was clearly broken, wondering what kind of monster he was. But Hak-yong stands before him and gets ready, saying that when a punch has all your weight behind it and meets with perfect timing and form, its power is on another level. He imitates his father and strikes Byung-guk dead on. The delinquent completely loses consciousness and falls to the ground. His underlings scream for their boss. Hak-yong announces that he won. Kim and Chang-ho celebrate their friend winning the fight, but he starts to feel dizzy and collapses. The underlings say that bastard is finished too, and they should gang up on him. Hak-yong curses. unable to move. But his friends step forward, declaring they will protect him, so they tell everyone to bring it on. As the day ends, they walk home together. Chang-ho stops and apologizes. He was curious at first, but once he started making money, he couldn't stop. And when he started losing, he got in deeper, trying to win it all back. But honestly, he's grateful he could use that money with his friends, and they know how things are at his house, especially Hak Young. If it weren't for that incident, he'd still be playing sports. The young man replies that it wasn't like that. Chang-ho says he's the worst kind of friend and truly regrets everything. Kim steps forward with his fist, asking what the hell this was about paying them back and being a burden. The blow sends Chang-ho flying. Kim yells that he's a pathetic loser, and if he really thinks of them as friends, he shouldn't spend dirty money on them. Chang-ho replies that he's sorry and doesn't deserve to be their friend. Kim tells him to shut up, because if he really was a burden all this time and really did that to them, then he would keep being his friend and make things right. Chang-ho starts to cry and hugs them both, but he asks about what's next, because the Mokjong idiots wouldn't just sit back. Kim says they were lucky, but Byung-guk is the leader of the Dawn. Chang-ho says they won't stay quiet after their leader was knocked out, and Kim adds that the current Myung-wang is connected to the Dawn. Hak Young thinks that if he becomes the Myung-wang, he'd be able to protect the school and his friends. So he asks if step 1 is to take over the whole school, if he wants to become the Myung-wang. Chang-ho asks where that came from, and Kim doesn't think he's serious. Hak Young says he's tired of these idiots showing up. Kim thinks that Pil-yong's son is on the path to the title, and that's just absurd. On Mokjong Mountain, a fat guy says he bets the Jinsung idiots are having a good day, until he hears a noise and asks what it was. Suddenly, everyone lines up to let the two of them pass. Byung-guk was sitting on the ground, thinking how humiliating this was. Remembering when he was knocked out, he smashes a bottle. Seontae comments that he looks really pissed off. But he had said that Mokjong had Jinsung under control. Byung-guk says it was shameful, but yes, they did, until someone stronger showed up, and Jong-hyun reveals his name, revealing he was the son of the second Myung-wang. Seontae says that in that case, it's no surprise he lost. Byung-guk is surprised, and the leader comments that the whole community was talking about his defeat. The delinquent asks how and who posted it. Seontae asks if he really thinks fair rules apply to him, and if running Mokjong was more important than leading the Dawn, because he made him the leader even with the other gangs against it. He shouldn't make him regret that choice, so he'll keep his head high and obey his orders, and if he doesn't, he'll lose more than a tooth next time. Byung-guk remembers when he was younger, and Seontae asks if he thinks he doesn't know, because he doesn't need to say it again. Just do as he's told. Then he says it was Mokjong's strongest who lost, but not the leader of the Dawn, asking if he was right. He must show them exactly what happens when someone messes with the Dawn, because he's going to push forward until he sees it handled. In the car, Seontae comments that he let his guard down, since things got easier when he became Myung-wang. Jong-young says he's sorry, that Hak Young was an unexpected variable. Seontae says he needs to call a general union meeting for the election to take place. Then he asks how Hyokjun is doing. The nerd replies that he shouldn't worry about it, because they should have met by now. Woo-jae turns around and pulls Hyeonjun out of the way as the motorcycle passes. The motorcycle parks, and the protagonist asks what the hell that was. But Hyokjun says it's been a while. Woo-jae recognizes his old friend's voice. A few seconds earlier, Hyeonjun tells Woo-jae not to walk around like that, or he'll get robbed, since it was 3 in the morning. Wondering if he doesn't have a watch or even know how it was working. Woo-jae says it's easy to get things mixed up when you're focused, so he should stop being arrogant just because he's platinum. His friend says it was just a joke, but now that he thinks about it, exams are coming up and he hates it. The protagonist tells him to just treat it like any other test, and Hyunjin asks if he's already giving up. Woo-jae questions this, saying they should bet on who scores higher. Then, the scene from earlier repeats itself as he pulls his friend out of the motorcycle's path. Hyunjin recognizes the bikes. They belong to the Dawn Mobile Squad. Woo-jae asks if they were trying to kill someone and who the hell they are, but Hyunjuk says it's been a long time since he's seen him. He then approaches and asks if the chubby guy is his friend. Woo-jae questions him about it, and Hyunjuk readies his leg, kicking Hyunjin away. The chubby guy is sent flying. Woo-jae lunges forward with his fist, asking what the hell he's doing, but Hyokjin stares at him with his blind eye. Woo-jae lowers his fist, and the guy moves, striking his former friend's abdomen, then moving towards his face, and Woo-jae starts to lose consciousness. Hyunjin calls out to his friend. Woo-jae falls to his knees. Hyokjin asks if he really thinks he can take on Dawn being this weak. He should go to the Yuna River on Friday at 9, because he'll be waiting at the same spot from 2 years ago. The guy managed to get a few more days, but he can just run away like a coward. just like last time. The motorcycle gang starts to ride off, and Hyunjun calls out to his friend, but he notices Woo Jae sighing. The next day at Jinseong Technical High School, a student asks if they've heard. Hak Yong took down Byunguk in a single blow. That means their new number one is Hak Yong. In the cafeteria, he questions why, once he becomes the strongest, no one would bother him. His friends reply that this is correct. Hak Yong replies that it doesn't seem that way. Kim says they know how strong he is, but as he said before, becoming the Myungwang isn't an easy path. Some of the guys in Dawn are the strongest from schools that have produced Myungwangs, and if he's not careful, he could end up facing them directly. Hak Young replies that he doesn't know about that and doesn't care. If he becomes the Myungwang, no one will mess with them, and that's all he wants. Kim says he'll help him on this path. Chang-ho agrees, saying he'd be his loyal man. But anyway, they want to know when he's going to Myungwang High, because if he goes, he should take them along because of that guy named Woo Jae. Hak Yong asks why they're bringing him up, as it completely ruined his appetite. Kim replies that he wants to check if it's the same guy he mentioned before, and the guy asks what if that idiot is him. Chang-ho asks if they've ever seen Hak Yong lose to anyone. His friend wants to know why he's so irritated, saying he just means things will get complicated if it's the Woo Jae he knows. Suddenly, a loud noise is heard, and a delinquent asks if the idiot is blind. The boy replies that he tried to move out of the way. The delinquent kicks him, asking if he's saying it was his fault, asking if he wants to mess with him and get his leg broken. But Hak Yong shows up saying that's enough. The delinquent says this limping bastard messed up his uniform. Hak Yong moves his hand quickly and hands a cloth to the delinquent, telling him to wait. The boy tells him to use it to clean himself up. The limping student walks away, and Hak Yong watches from a distance as he was heading towards the school exit. At Myungwang High, Hyunjin looks at his friend. Woo Jae was thinking that he was the strongest in Cheonggu and a member of Dawn, so he wonders why, of all people, his opponent had to be Hyokjun, and why he was still in Dawn. Hyunjin thinks he probably knows who he is, but there's something about the way he reacted. It wasn't something he could ask him right now anyway. Then, Hyeri pats the protagonist on the back and calls out to him. Hyunjin calls out to the class representative to warn her, while Woo Jae just ignores her. Hyeri tells him to call her by her name because he's embarrassing her. The chubby guy asks if she's going home for once. The girl replies that she isn't, because there's a general student council meeting. She almost mentions the council president, but changes the subject, wondering what's up with Woo Jae, because he's all serious and not even responding. Hyunjin says maybe he's just having a bad day, but tells the girl to wait. Hyeri approaches Woo Jae. Noticing his lip, she asks if he got into another fight. That's why people get scared and avoid him, but Woo Jae ignores her again. She asks if he's thinking of transferring schools again after another bad incident. Woo Jae turns around angrily asking what she just said. Hyunjin tries to explain on the girl's behalf, but a voice calls out to the protagonist. He turns and comes face to face with the limping guy. He's in shock, as he recognizes who it is. In the past, he says that this could end badly and everyone could get hurt, but Sangil replies that this is disappointing, because no matter what he says, he is the leader, and they'll be with him until the end. They both quickly call out each other's names. Then they run to embrace. If the Myungwang controls the shadows of student society, then on the other side, representing the light, was the General Student Association of Taiyang High. Presidents and vice presidents, considered the leaders of their schools, gathered to discuss and decide on student matters. And today, with their support, a new representative of the General Association, known as a leader among students, had been appointed. Everyone applauds for Seontae Yang from Ilwon High. As the meeting ends, Hyeri gets up from her chair, but she bumps shoulders with a guy and apologizes. He asks if she's from Myungwang, and the girl confirms and introduces herself. Jongjin does the same, saying he's also a second year. Hyeri says it's nice to meet him, but it seems only vice presidents showed up, and Jongjin starts to explain why. But Seontae says, so she's from Myungwang. He was a little shy about meeting everyone, but it was nice to meet her, and he hopes to work well with her in the future. Hyeri agrees and congratulates him on being chosen as the representative, thinking that he was the guy June had talked about. Seontae keeps smiling and says he must be Jongjin, the vice president of Jimyong High. It's nice to meet him, and he also wants to work hard together in the future, and Jongjin agrees. They both stare at each other, and he wonders if he's planning to be both the Myungwang and the council president. Jonghyun watches this from a distance, thinking it's been a while since he saw Sunbai Jongjin. In front of the Yunha River, the two friends sit down. Sangil asks if he's really going to fight Hyokjun. If he tells the truth now, he could clear up this misunderstanding, but the protagonist refuses, saying it's an unavoidable fight. Sangil asks if it's about revenge, and if that's why he returned. Woo Jae answers, probably, or maybe it's for another reason, with a girl saying she's happy he's by Seontae's side, so he must promise to always be a good friend to him. Woo Jae had accepted that promise. Sangil tells him to just stop, because it's all over, and he wants to know if he plans to leave lead Dawn again. Woo-jae says that's enough nonsense and they should get some food, asking about the pork they used to eat back in the old days. But then he's surprised. Sang-gil shows the scar on his leg and says this was the price for his wrong choice. After what happened, and Woo-jae took the blame, getting transferred from school, the rest of them who stayed, except for Hyukjin, were treated as if they were never part of Dawn. It was so meaningless. And at the same time, he was furious. He felt as if everything they had done had been denied, so he thought he would destroy Dawn by himself, screaming that he would crush Dawn with his own hands. That may have been an act of loyalty and courage. But in the end, all that remained were permanent injuries and scars. So he asks Woo-jae to just let it go, but the protagonist pulls up his pant leg, saying that no matter what he says, he's already made up his mind. Then he stands up, thinking that if there's nothing he can do, he will put an end to Dawn. On the way home, Jongjin explains that he's called Lunette and has been causing campus problems. He asks about the situation with Myungwang, and Hyeri replies that it's the same and they're running a campaign. Even if you tell the teachers, they try to keep it under wraps because of the school's reputation, and even the student council members were involved. Jongjin replies that if the delinquents from her school are using Lunette, it's not surprising she's in conflict. The girl asks if it's true. The young man says that's what people are saying, but it was Woo-jae who was in charge of it. Hyeri asks about it, very surprised. Jongjin asks if she knows him, and the girl explains they're friends from the same class. She's sure he isn't involved, saying it must be a misunderstanding or something. Jongjin says they must be close for her to defend him like that. Hyeri replies that he might be a bit rough, but he's good on the inside. The vice president thinks they're not that close in that case, but the girl calls out for Woo-jae. She tells him to wait and hits him, asking why he wasn't home. Woo-jae replies that he does whatever he wants, and Hyeri says she was working hard in the student council. The protagonist tells her to stop wandering around and go home before it gets late. Sang-gil thinks he always acts like this in front of girls, but he notices something as Jongjin asks if he is Woo-jae. He was warning him, as a representative of Jim-young's school, that he should keep his school out of his illegal betting. Woo-jae asks what the hell he's talking about. Jongjin tells him to stop using his students for his own benefit. Hyeri says he must be having some kind of misunderstanding. Woo-jae asks if this is how he picks fights, but Jongjin questions if he doesn't know the difference between a warning and a challenge. Both stare at each other, angry and ready to fight. Hak-yong drops his bag. He thinks that guy is Woo-jae, and he wants to know who the other one is and what was going on there. Earlier, in an ice cream shop, Hak-yong and Kim are talking until Chang-ho yells that he found it. It was the same as Hyeri's plushie. Hak-yong disappears from his spot along with the plushie. He thinks that he was lucky, while another. Then he leaves the store after buying the plushie. His friends quickly follow him. Chang-ho asks Kim who he's texting non-stop and if he got a girlfriend, but he denies it. The chubby guy says he's been glued to his phone all day, and it's quite suspicious to him. But the two of them slap Hak-yong on the back. He drops his purchase and looks coldly at the scene. Chang-ho and Kim shout, excited for the fight that was about to happen. Hak-yong picks up the bag and walks over there. Woo-jae recognizes him, but is ignored. The young man hands the plushie to Hyeri. The girl remembers the rainy day, and when she gave him the bandage. Hak-yong tells her she dropped this. Hyeri replies that she was really annoyed that she lost it. Then they both smile at each other. Hak-yong changes the subject and turns to the two of them. He remembers Kim saying that Woo-jae was the first leader of the Dawn but got expelled. He asks how it could be this guy, but he turns and sees Jongjin, saying that he was the real problem. This idiot Woo-jae didn't even come close. Then Hak-yong tells him to shut up because he's annoying. Jongjin notices he's from Jinsong's school and probably not a normal student. Kim and Sang-gil look at each other. Then they start watching the argument, ready with popcorn. All three of them just stare at each other. On the way home, Sang-gil is still limping. He suddenly stops to remember what happened that night. Woo-jae comments that the place is still as good as ever and he really nailed it. Sang-gil asks why he doesn't tell Hyukjin now, since he wouldn't run, but would leave on his own. The protagonist replies that he is the strongest at Cheonggu High, which means there's no way to get around the situation. Sang-gil asks if he really has to, and if he's really going to fight him again. Woo-jae says he has no choice if he wants to take down Seontae, and this was the only right way to challenge Myungwang. Sang-gil stomps his foot, yelling that this isn't right. He says he'll talk to Hyukjin himself. The next day, Hyunjin sits on a school bench. He had asked if Woo-jae was kidding, but he asked him not to tell Cheol-sang and the others. Hyunjin wonders if he's really going to the Mercury hideout by himself. Cheol-sang asks what he's talking about, and Hyunjin is startled by them. The group asks if they weren't the guys from Cheonggu, and that their leader was in the Dawn, adding that he heard they're violent for going around with tools like that. Cheol-sang wants to know what he was talking about. Hyunjin says it was really nothing, but the delinquents say they'll be the ones to judge that. Woo-jae gets ready and starts walking toward the location, but he notices his friends and and asks why they are there, complaining about that idiot Hyunjun. Then Woo-jae tells everyone to go home. Chael-sang says he really doesn't understand why he's going alone, but knows that's why he was looking for them. But he needs to think about how worried they are about him. This time, they're going with him. Hyunjun says they should try to go wherever he goes. Woo-jae complains that they're impossible. He keeps walking forward and bumps Chael-sang's shoulder. They all look at him fearfully, but Woo-jae asks if they aren't coming with him. They all shout that they are, and the protagonist cracks a smile. They finally arrive at the Mercury base. One of the delinquents notices they're there. Then the groups face off. Hyunjun thinks this is intense and maybe he shouldn't have come. Woo-jae asks where Hyokjun is. One of the delinquents tells him to come with him. The protagonist tells his friends to stay put, saying he'll be back after he wins. He turns and walks over, thinking that even if it's Hyokjun, he has no choice but to fight. Hyokjun thinks he'll have to be the one to take down his old friend. Both prepare for battle coldly. Hyokjun was waiting with a motorcycle beside him. Then he remembers when he was kicked. Byunguk says this one-eyed guy wanted to lose his life and thinks he's still the strongest in his class. Hyokjun thinks he transferred without a word, and he wants to know if he had really run away. Byunguk asks if he really thinks he can land a punch with an eye like that. He says it's really distressing, taking off his eye patch. Hyokjun shields himself with his hands, complaining that these guys were really asking for it. Two others hold him down and ask if he thinks he can defeat everyone with just one working eye, saying he was nothing but a traitor. Suddenly, the door is kicked open, and Seontae sends him flying. Then he looks at the other two and punches them in the face. They all fall to the ground in front of him. Byunguk questions what's wrong, saying this guy was the one who betrayed the Dawn. Seontae says this is nothing but a fight between friends, and more importantly, he pins him to a locker while saying he was out of line for thinking he could mess with Hyokjun. Then he tells all of them to kneel. Seontae picks up the eye patch and asks if he's okay, while Hyokjun wonders why he's helping him. He was the one who stood by his side. Woo-jae was a coward and not his friend. Back in the present, he asks what brings Sangil there. He explains that he's getting it all wrong, and Hyokjun asks about what. Sangil says that Woo-jae didn't run away from anything. He left to keep them safe, because Seontae had planned everything. But Hyokjun replies that he's the one who's got it all wrong. He says he doesn't give a damn about that pathetic past, and is just making him pay for messing with the Dawn. So, he should stay out of it and leave while he still has one good leg. Sangil screams his friend's name in anger, but Hyokjun grabs his collar and asks if he thinks he'd let him go easily just because he's lame. He should stop acting so weak. A subordinate calls out for his boss, but Woo-jae greets him with a kick, which is dodged. Hyokjun's glasses fall to the ground, and he calls out Woo-jae's name. The protagonist says this fight is between the two of them anyway. Hyokjun takes off his jacket, commenting that he's still the same old coward, but the protagonist asks if he's scared since he's about to be defeated. All he did was get better at bluffing. Hyokjun replies that now he'll show him what happens when he crosses the Dawn. The protagonist gets into his stance, warning that he'll dismantle this gang, starting with his defeat. Sangil screams for his friends to stop. Hyokjun charges at him and throws a few punches, which are easily avoided. Then he tries a kick, but Woo-jae manages to block everything. Next, the one-eyed guy throws an elbow strike. Woo-jae manages to defend but gets pushed away. He then tries to attack his blind spot, landing a blow to his abdomen. Hyokjun feels immense pain. The protagonist advances with a middle kick, but it's blocked by Hyokjun's leg. Woo-jae finally readies his fist and throws a punch, but Hyokjun manages to dodge it. He grabs his shoulder and knees him in the stomach. Woo-jae feels the pain as Hyokjun advances with his fist, but the protagonist sees the perfect moment and lands an uppercut on his opponent's chin. Hyokjun starts to lose consciousness. On that day, they were all defeated under the rain. He says he can't see anything with his eye and something is wrong. Woo-jae calls out to his friend and then screams in desperation. The doctors said Hyokjun's retina and optic nerve were completely damaged. He would become permanently blind in his left eye. The boy stares at him with a bleeding eye and asks about his pathetic, guilty expression, because nothing has changed, and he can still knock him out with his own hands, landing a heavy punch. Woo-jae's back hits the wall. Sangil thinks that Hyokjun has gotten much stronger than before, but it seemed like Woo-jae was holding back out of guilt. Hyokjun gets up and moves forward, saying he came at dawn with that pathetic skill level, and tries a kick that Woo-jae easily dodges. The protagonist plants himself on the ground, lifting his head right after. Hyokjun appears and says he has no chance against Seontae, so he should run away like he did before, then strikes him in the stomach. In the past, Hyokjun asks why he was doing this. Seontae replies that it's because he needs him. The boy asks how he could say that after what happened. Seontae asks if he's blaming him for what happened to his eye. They've been friends since childhood, so he wants to know why he thinks it ended up this way. The Dawn grew larger, and establishing a hierarchy was inevitable, but it was Woo-jae who opposed it and caused the internal division. If it weren't for him, he would have already taken over all the schools in Taeyang. Hyokjun says he feels the same way, and that there shouldn't be a hierarchy among friends. Seontae says, the one who said that left without a word, and wonders how someone who acts like that deserves to talk about friendship. The one-eyed man replies that he must have a reason. He's sure of it. But Seontae says he was just scared of what happened, or maybe he left because he didn't want to get caught up in all these problems. Even with these unavoidable circumstances, he could have just called or sent a text. He asks what he expected from someone he'd only known for a few months. Then he gets angry remembering all of this. Seontae watches and explains that it was just the beginning of the dawn, and they must stick together. First, in 2 years, they will take over every high school in Taeyang. Hyokjun asks what he could do with one eye when he can't even defeat the weaklings. But Seontae tells him not to worry, as he could get strong again. The one-eyed man asks what he means. Then Seontae says he just had to push through the hard times ahead. Back in the present, he strikes Woo Jae's abdomen. Sang-gil screams his friend's name. Hyokjun tells him to go down, but the protagonist blocks the blow and tells him to cut the crap, landing a straight punch on his chin. Hyokjun staggers back from the hit. Woo Jae says he'd be lying if he said he didn't feel guilty, but that doesn't mean he's going down here, because he has to take down Seontae, so he charges forward. Hyokjun throws a straight punch, but the protagonist dodges it. He lands a hook to his abdomen. The one-eyed man tries another strike, however Woo Jae dodges it again, setting up a punch that connects with his opponent's face. Hyokjun starts to fall back, but plants his foot and tries once more. In the past, Kang Dong-ho enters the gym, asking if anyone is there, and if the one-eyed guy was the one Seontae was talking about. Then he throws 2 gloves at him. Hyokjun glares at him angrily. But Dong-ho, the 6th Myungwang, says it's been a while since he had some fun. Several fights ensue, with Hyokjun ending up bruised on the floor. Dong-ho comments that opponents would always go for his left side, but he could use that as a trap. Instead of a blind spot, his left side would be a bait to throw them off. He must take advantage of the deliberate opening, completely defending his left side and dominating with his right. Dong-ho starts training the boy to do just that. He tells him to get faster and faster with his elbow strikes. Hyokjun tries one of these on Woo Jae, but the boy dodges it. However, in a spin, the one-eyed man swings his right elbow. Woo Jae watches the trajectory of the blow and quickly gets out of the way, dodging and counter-attacking his opponent's face. Hyokjun starts to lose consciousness and falls to the ground. He wonders if he got any stronger all this time, gritting his teeth and enduring everything. He can't fall now. He needs to win for this to be his end. Woo Jae walks over and tells him they should end it here because he can't win. He knows the real purpose of the fight wasn't him. At the hospital, when Sang-gil became lame, Hyokjun watches his friend from afar, seeing him fall to the ground while feeling pathetic. He wonders why it had to end like this for him too, until someone calls his name, pushing him against the wall with just one hand. The guy asks what the hell he was doing there, since he sided with Seontae and got Sang-gil into this mess. Hyokjun slaps his hand away, asking why it would be his fault that bastard ended up like this. The real traitor was Woo Jae, the one who ran away without a single word to dodge all the consequences. His old friend asks who told him that because it was all a lie, and he should have thought about it. They were taken to the police station and the school violence committee because of that incident. But it all ended with just a single first official disciplinary action. Seontae orchestrated it on the condition that Woo Jae leave town. He was trying to protect everyone. Hyokjun asks Seontae if this is true, since he clearly said Woo Jae had abandoned them. Seontae replies that he'd rather not think about him, but anyway, he has something for the boy. Hyokjun yells again, wanting to know if it was true, but Seontae replies that it's all in the past now, and he should say if he likes this. The boy is impressed by the motorcycle in front of him and asks why he's getting it. Seontae replies that he always liked motorcycles and wants him to be part of the Dawn task force. Hyokjun says he always gets more than he deserves, but Seontae asks if he forgot what he said, because the dawn was just beginning. So he should accept the gift, but promise one thing, to always be on Dawn's side. In the present, Hyokjun says that's not an option, because he's still part of the gang. Woo Jae looks at him furiously, ripping off his tie while saying that since it's worth risking his life for, he'll put an end to this right now. Sang-gil again asks them to stop. Hyokjun looks at his old friend. Sang-gil questions what this whole fight between friends is about. Previously, Hyokjun and his gang noticed the lame boy far away from him. He was with some delinquents, being intimidated. One of them kicks his leg. Sang-gil says he was now in his school uniform, but the delinquents shout that this asshole talks too much. He has exactly 5 minutes and should start walking. Hyokjun thinks he can't believe this idiot was being intimidated by these punks like this. One of the delinquents notices him. Hyokjun approaches them and gets their attention. A few minutes later, they are begging for mercy. Hyokjun's hands were stained with blood, with all those delinquents decimated on the ground. At the hospital, his old friend comments that Woo Jae was just trying to protect them, but he would also be transferring soon and knows how his father was. He's ashamed that Hyokjun was with Seontae, but he shouldn't forget they were friends once, so he should take care of himself. Hyokjun plants his feet, his hands trembling. Meanwhile, Woo-jae prepares to fight angrily. The boy clenches his fists, remembering the past. When Byung-guk said Woo-jae was back, Seon-tae suggested taking care of him. Hyuk-jun wonders if he could really defeat Woo-jae, as it seemed completely impossible. With Dawn's ace cards, Jonghyun and Doyeon, and the rest of the gang being on a different level compared to middle school, all that awaited Woo-jae was a miserable end. He didn't have even a 1% chance of victory. Hyuk-jun spits blood on the ground, thinking he'll take care of Woo-jae himself so his friends don't suffer again. He was going to win this fight. So he charges once more, very fast, against the protagonist, trying a cross punch to his face. He then feints with his elbow, but Woo-jae manages to block the blows, then counterattacks with a fist to his chin, hitting Hyuk-jun squarely once more. The boy is thrown back by the impact, but he quickly plants his feet on the ground, trying another punch that Woo-jae easily avoids. An absurd exchange of blows occurs, with the protagonist dodging them all. The subordinate in the mask just records it on his phone, remembering that if Hyuk-jun loses, all Mercury needs to do is knock out Woo-jae, because Cheonggu-hae can't be defeated by Myungwang. Sangil quickly realizes all of this. Outside, the two groups stare each other down with extreme hostility. Hyunjin wonders if this would really end in a single fight, but the phones of all Mercury members ring. They look quickly and wonder if everyone got that text. Chael-sang and his colleague realize it right away. While the Mercury members say they should go after the head of Myungwang-hae, Chael-sang gets in the way and says not so fast. They aren't going anywhere until the fight is over. Hyunjin wonders why his bad feelings are always right. One of the delinquents comments that he leaves them no choice, yelling to take down everyone there, and so a widespread brawl breaks out. Hyunjin starts running until he's hit by a punch to the face. Chael-sang notices this quickly and runs to him, landing a kick that sends the delinquent flying. He tells his Sunbai to get out of there since he doesn't know how to fight, but one of his friends falls beside him. He asks if Seokmin is okay, and the delinquent complains about these bastards. The Mercury members keep advancing until a voice shouts asking who they were. One of the delinquents is hit with a fist to the face and then falls back thanks to Munsu. He answers that they were Myungwang-hae. Hyunjin says that Sunbai Munsu really came. Another delinquent tries to call his friend, but Chu Haijin charges forward, telling them to keep their heads up, knocking out one of the Mercury members and sending him flying. Everyone from Myungwang is impressed. Then the Mercury member orders them to finish them off. Jaekyung runs quickly and hits him with a knee strike. That guy falls to his knees on the ground, asking if he wasn't Jaekyung. Cheol-sang is also completely surprised, but Jaekyung says his style doesn't allow him to leave a debt unpaid. The Mercury members wonder where these bastards from Myungwang came from. Hyunjin says this is how it ends. Cheol-sang comments that it brings back memories. Jaekyung says he was still weak, just the same. The boy asks who's weak, and the blonde says he was the one beaten up on the rooftop. Cheol-sang starts to remember it. Jaekyung says if he thinks differently, he should prove it right there, and the freshman replies that he'll show him how capable he is. The Mercury members wonder what they're doing, as they should be finishing them. Cheol-sang charges forward, telling them to come at him. Under the bridge, Woo-jae looks at a panting Hyuk-jun. He glares angrily at his old friend, but hears the noise of the battle and says those idiots can't stay out of trouble. Hyuk-jun notices that this arrogant bastard got distracted, so he charges forward quickly with his fist. Woo-jae blocks his elbow strike with his arm. He deflects the next blow with his elbow, but Hyuk-jun grabs his shoulder, landing a knee to his chest. The protagonist thinks he's definitely gotten stronger, but there's no way he'll lose to him, revealing that he blocked the knee strike. He then charges forward, thinking he has to take them all down. He lands another cross punch on Hyuk-jun's face. Using his standing foot, he kicks the one-eyed man's head, thinking he must eliminate Seon-tae and the Dawn. Hyuk-jun stumbles back, his legs unable to hold him up anymore, but he puts a hand on his knee and tries to get up, even while trembling. Sangil watches from a distance, worried, wondering why he's fighting so hard when he can't even land a punch. Hyuk-jun throws another punch, which Woo-jae dodges. Then Woo-jae counterattacks, hitting his abdomen. Hyuk-jun finally falls to the ground. Sangil shouts that it's enough for both of them, and that he should just admit defeat. But Hyuk-jun tells him to shut up, thinking that it's not over yet, and that he has to win this. He wonders why he had to come back now as his vision starts to blur. Hyuk-jun thinks he should have just stayed away and gotten out of all this chaos. Woo-jae repeats that they should end the fight there. He lands a punch on his face with all his might. With that, Hyuk-jun is finally knocked out. The vice leader of Mercury and Sangil watch from a distance, but everyone breaks into a smile because Woo-jae took down Hyuk-jun. Cheol-sang notices this and shouts to his Sunbai as a member of Mercury charges at him. Woo-jae quickly looks back. He counters the blow with an uppercut to the chin. The delinquent falls to the ground, trembling, as he tries to reach for a screwdriver, but the protagonist stomps on his hand, preparing to hit him again, until a voice shouts for him to stop. Hyuk-jun says it's enough, that he lost. Wu Jie replies that it wasn't exactly a happy reunion, but he was glad to see him again, stronger than ever. Hyukjun tells him to stop acting so arrogant just because he won, but he looks over at Sangil by his side. Sangil comments that they should leave together, the three of them this time, and Hyukjun replies to just not let those idiots bully him. The two of them watch their friend leave. Hyukjun notices something beside him. Jae-kyung warns him that they'll settle the score soon, and Hyukjun replies that he's ready whenever and wherever he wants. Hyunjin watches all of this with a smile until his phone starts to ring. Some people in his group chat are saying that Wu Jie defeated Hyukjun, because at this rate he could defeat Myungwang all by himself. Someone watches this fight from afar. Kim wonders if that was really the Wu Jie he knew. In a pool hall, Jonghyung answers the call, saying that he lost. A few delinquents watch this from a distance, but they advance with pool cues in hand. Jonghyung notices this and quickly dodges. He grabs the delinquent's jacket and shoves him against the wall. The young man glares at him seriously, even without his glasses. Then he starts beating his face relentlessly. The other delinquents think they need to do something until the door to the room is opened. The guy says it looks like that bastard already made the call. Jonghyung turns around and his companion replies that sometimes it's fun to mess with the small fry, but if they get beaten this easily, there's no chance to enjoy it. On the rooftop, Cheol-sang and Jae-kyung meet. The young man is a bit hesitant as the blonde guy asks what he said. Munsu asks if he heard correctly, and Chu Ha-jin confirms, but the two of them tell them to shut up. Cheol-sang scratches his face and thanks him for protecting them against Mercury. Jae-kyung replies that he thought it was something important. Munsu and Chu Ha-jin wonder what that was about, but their leader tells them to hurry up. The trio walks off, and Jae-kyung warns that some idiots have been after their uniforms lately. They've been pretending to be from his school and messing with Jimyong-hai using Woo-jae's name. Cheol-sang asks who these idiots are. Jae-kyung says it's obviously someone trying to stir up trouble between both schools. He tells him to stay out of it, or he'll be humiliated by Jimyong-hai. Cheol-sang asks if it wouldn't be better for him if Woo-jae's side lost. Jae-kyung replies that he's with him now, so if he needs any help later, he should just ask. Munsu thinks something is going on here. Jae-kyung yells once more for them to come on. Cheol-sang sighs, thinking about his Hyung, because they'd have to face Jimyong-hai sooner or later anyway. Elsewhere, Hyunjin is on his phone, wondering who Wu Jae's next opponent will be, whether it'll be Yeogman Kang, Byung-guk Kim, or even Hak Young, until he notices something in the alley. He remembers that's where they first met, and it was a pretty embarrassing moment, but since then, his school has really changed. Whoever his next opponent is, he wants Wu Jae to win and become Mayungwang, since it was his school that started the legacy after all. Until he hears some people in the alley shouting that the trash from Jimyong-hai is begging to be killed. They're beating up a kid in the alley. He's apologizing, saying he didn't want to do it. Hyunjun remembers the time he was bullied and gets angry. He grabs a trash bag and charges forward, questioning what those bastards are doing. But he notices they're from Myungwang High. The delinquents ask what he's doing and if he wants to throw that at them. So they decide to leave and forget about it. They bump Hyunjun's shoulder as they pass, and he notices the name Wang Yi-min on the uniform. Earlier, he had asked Wang Yi who the bastards were that stole his uniform, but the nerd said he had no idea. Hyunjun shouts that they're not from his school. He demands to know who they really are. At Jimyong High, Jungji walks through the hallways. He starts to remember something from earlier. He'd asked Jung if he was sure it wasn't the Dawn, and Jung replied that they usually leave things to the boss and don't get involved. Jongjin says it's hard to believe they're being bullied by Mayungwang like this. Jung replies that they're ashamed of it too, but ever since the school's leader changed, these guys have been acting like they own the place. They're a group of students who were beaten up by the assholes from Myungwang, and if Yugmon hadn't lost his title, they could have fought back. Jungjin tells him not to blame Yugmon for it. Jang just continues, saying the new leader of Myungwang is Wu Jae, and apparently he also took down all the strongest guys from Haesung High. He also heard that Wu Jae is putting an insane amount of effort into his role as leader because he's trying to join the Dawn. People are saying he uses money to expand his power and challenge the title of Myungwang. And this isn't an excuse, but if Yugmon hadn't lost his position, he wouldn't have to do anything to ruin his reputation. If he really cares about the students, he should handle this himself by defeating Wu Jae and then trying to become the next Myungwang. If that happens, maybe things can go back to how they were before. He misses the peaceful days at Jimyong High when Yugmon was the Myungwang. Jongjin approaches the school gym. A student says the vice president is already very strong, and Jongjin replies that maybe it would be better to ask a teacher for help. But the kid says he can't, because he'd end up on the school's blacklist. Jongjin says the disciplinary committee seems to have something against him, and while he won't ask what it is, he just needs to be honest. The young man nods at him. Jongjin asks about the others on the council with him that day, and the student says they can't do anything. No one wants to make it obvious, but there are many more people like him. Jongjin asks when it started. The student replies that it wasn't long after Yugmon lost his title as Myungwang. Jongjin asks if he's blaming him too, but the boy denies it, saying he just misses the days when he was the Myungwang. At least then, it didn't feel like hell on earth. Jungjin meets up with several students and Yugmon, who says they've been waiting for him. The young man says he's not sure if this is necessary, but becoming the Myungwang is the fastest way to protect the school. He feels he has no choice and is sorry about it. Yugmon says it seems like he's confident about winning. He hopes Jungjin becomes the Myungwang, but he can't lose without at least putting up a fight, so he tells him to get ready and asks if he's prepared. Jungjin moves closer, and the two begin to exchange blows. Later, in front of the river, Woo Jae stands beside Sangil. They look towards the bridge until Hyokjun's motorcycle approaches. The young man parks and takes off his helmet. Then the three of them glance at each other. At Jimyong High, Yugmon falls to the ground, saying that Jungjin had won. Jang thinks that he knew he wasn't a normal guy, but he didn't expect him to be this strong. Yugmon says he didn't think he'd be completely outmatched, and Jungjin replies that he's sorry, but his friend tells him to save the apologies. He's in charge now, so he must keep the school safe. He shouldn't forget that, because it means he's going to be the next Myungwang. He then pats him on the shoulder, saying he's leaving now, leaving the gym while limping slightly. The other students of Jimyong High surround Jungjin. Jang extends his hand and congratulates him on becoming the new owner of the school. Jungjin replies that the school belongs to the students, and from now on, he won't tolerate any illegal activities on campus. No exceptions. Not even for the third years or members of the disciplinary committee. Jang says that to truly do that, he'd have to defeat the strongest at Myungwang High as well. Elsewhere, Jang questions if Jongyoung will really give him a cut of the profits, and the nerd confirms it. Since he was basically the one leading at Jimyong High, he deserves that amount, but he must make sure the mission happens. Jang replies that he understands and will make him fight Woo Jae soon, wondering why it has to be Jungjin. In the present, Jang says that if the illegal betting wasn't enough, now they were beating people up in broad daylight. And if they want things back to normal, they need to clean this up first. He'll have to face Woo Jae anyway if he wants to become the Myungwang. On the river bridge, Sangil comments that it's been a while, but he gets no response from the other two. Sangil asks if these idiots are just going to sit there in silence like that. Woo Jae asks if he's okay. Hyukjun confirms it, saying his weak punches couldn't do anything. They start arguing about a rematch next. Sangil tells them to stop it. The two of them complain. But Sangil says they used to fight all the time. Every time it was that person who ended the fight. Woo Jae pushes Sangil's hand away, asking why he's suddenly bringing this up. He then stands up, wanting to know why Hyukjun keeps hanging out with that idiot and if he's got some secret on him or something. Hyukjun replies that after his eye ended up like this, Seontai was the one who helped him get back on his feet. He doesn't care about his true intentions. He just wants to repay this debt. Sangil asks why they can't all get together like before. Hyukjun says that as long as Seontai needs him, he will stay by his side, and that's his answer. Woo Jae says he figured he'd say something like that, but that just makes him want to knock out Seontai and the Dawn even faster. Hyukjun tells him to give up because he'll get beaten up just like before. Woo Jae tells him to watch his mouth because he's not losing to anyone ever again. His friend replies that the Dawn has teamed up with people stronger than he could ever imagine, and his gang won't be able to handle them. And Seontai is on a completely different level. Woo Jae says that's funny coming from a guy he knocked out, and Sangil asks if that's the reason he wants to defeat Woo Jae, because he knows he wouldn't stand a chance against Seontai or the Dawn, so he wanted to deal with him himself to keep him out of more trouble. He knew the reason Woo Jae left them. Hyukjun asks why he came back and got into this whole mess, saying he should have just stayed quiet. Woo Jae says he thought about doing that and tried to put it all behind him, but he couldn't, clenching his fist. Hyukjun calls him an idiot and turns away angrily. Woo Jae says he still thinks of him as a friend, so he shouldn't get hurt and should take care of himself. Sangil says that even if he hates it, he'll keep calling out to him because, just as Woo Jae said, they've always been friends. Hyukjun looks back but stomps his foot and keeps walking, calling them idiots. On the way to school another day, Hyunjun repeats that fighting the Dawn alone is impossible. Woo Jae says he could fight alone to become the Myungwang, but against the Dawn, it would be an all-out war. Hyunjun slaps his back, asking if he finally gets it. Woo Jae says all he's got is Cheolsang and his friends, and Hyunjun, but the chubby guy says he's not weak. He just hates fighting. Woo Jae says that if even Hyukjun is saying this, it means his current power and group aren't enough to take down the Dawn. Hyunjun thinks that he's not wrong. During the Mercury incident, Woo Jae would have been in serious danger if it weren't for Jae Kyung's gang. Even with them, they are still no match for the Dawn. However, Hyunjun suddenly has an idea, saying they can team up with other schools. The Dawn is an alliance of 5 schools, and to fight them, they'd have to deal with the other 2 strongest guys. Byung-guk leads the Dawn, so they can't try to team up with him. That leaves only the strongest from Jinsung and Jimyong High, so their best bet is to beat them both up and get them on their side. Analyzing that the leader of Jinsong Hai is tough since his father is the second Myungwang, and the leader of Jim Yong apparently defeated the 16th Myungwang not too long ago. Either way, neither of them will be easy, and Wu Jie remembers those two. Hyunjin notices some delinquents running out of an alley, shouting that it wasn't them and they shouldn't have done it. Hyunjin says he has a bad feeling about this, and they should go check it out. In the alley, Seokmin is beaten up. Jongjin had done this while Cheol-sang's gang was nearby. The guy approaches with a swift punch, but Jongjin just dodges it easily. Then he ducks slightly and lands across to his abdomen. Cheol-sang groans in pain, and Jongjin readies another punch, but he takes no damage as Wu Jie defends him with his backpack. The opponents quickly stare each other down. Wu Jie says he's the same goody two-shoes as before, while Jongjin just calls out his name. He then lunges forward with a punch, but Wu Jie dodges it quickly. Lifting his foot off the ground, he strikes. Jongjin blocks with his hands, but the protagonist advances once more. Both of their blows counter each other. Jongjin grabs his arm, and Wu Jie kicks his leg. They both quickly repel each other. Everyone is surprised, and Wu Jie puts his hand on the wall. The two quickly recompose themselves for combat. Jang yells for them to stop, asking why they don't just pick a time and place and do it for real. If someone reports this, they're all screwed, since they aren't after the Myungwang title anyway, and it would be an official match they have the right to hold. Wu Jie thinks that if he's the strongest at Jimyong High, then they were bound to face off sooner or later, asking if the goody two-shoes accepts these conditions. Jongjin says he's in, and he better not even think about running from it. Elsewhere, Seokmin shouts that they're innocent. They were just trying to stop these upperclassmen. Hyunjin replies that they're not from their school, because he's never seen them before, and one of them was wearing the uniform of one of his friends. Chil-sung thinks that if Wu Jie hadn't interfered, he would have been beaten to a pulp by Jongjin. Seokmin asks his friend to say something. Wu Jie grabs Chol-sung's head, saying he knows there's no way these idiots started this. He was going to fight this guy anyway, so he'll just win and clear their names. But to finish this, they've got some work to do as his official idiot squad. The next day at school, Jaekyung sucks on a lollipop while Munsu explains that Wu Jie will be facing the strongest from Jimyong High soon. He heard Jongjin beat the 16th Myungwang, so they must be curious about what kind of guy he is, asking what Jaekyung is going to say. The blonde guy asks if he doesn't have anything better to do, wondering why he's wasting his time on such trash. In another part of town, Hak Yong is reading a webtoon. Kim and Chang Ho grab his arm, telling him they should go. Since he'll have to fight one of them eventually, he should see what they're like. But Hak Yong says his favorite author's new chapter is about to be released. Gisyong says Wu Jie is one thing, but the guy from Jimyong High is a whole other story. Hak Yong adds that he doesn't seem like a normal guy. Kim confirms it since he was able to defeat the 16th Myung Wang. Hak Yong grips his phone, and his friends ask if he's interested. Elsewhere, people from all groups gather to watch the fight. Hak Yong watches with his friends. Hyunjun, in the middle of the crowd, notices Sangil and waves at him. The members of Jimyong High start to arrive. Wu Jie calmly walks up, not in his uniform. Jiang asks if he came alone. Wu Jie ignores him, saying it should be a fair fight. Just the two of them. Jongjin agrees, saying that's how it should be. The protagonist says it's good he's not making a scene and tells him to get ready to fight. Jongjin says he's going to make him pay for everything he did to his school. Wu Jie just says he's been talking that same shit since last time, but he'll make sure to make him eat those words. Then, they both rush toward each other. Wu Jie throws several jabs at his opponent, but Jongjin dodges everyone. The protagonist throws a stronger punch, but it's easily avoided. Jongjin thinks, he's faster than I thought, but he counters the protagonist's punch from below. Wu Jie loses his balance and takes a hit to the head from the impact. Jongjin wonders if he didn't hit him hard enough, because the protagonist quickly turns around, landing a palm strike to his face. Jongjin is injured. Wu Jie thinks, I thought that was a knockout, but he turned his head and minimized the damage. Then the student rushes forward. Elsewhere, a group of bullies waits eagerly, commenting that a fight is about to break out. One of them complains that the uniform makes them look weak, but his buddy makes fun of him. They laugh at the joke, playfully telling the other to shut up. Just then, one of their phones buzzes, and he pulls it out to check the notification. He confirms the money has hit his account, showing the screen to his partners. With a victorious smile, the young man says they're not suckers anymore. He gets pissed and decides to throw away his uniform, yelling for them to get rid of them. But as he's about to leave, a strong hand grabs his arm, stopping his escape. It was Wu Jie and his crew, who show up saying they caught the little punks red-handed. Without a second thought, Wu Jie lands a powerful punch right in the guy's face. The impact is so strong that the bully flies backward, completely stunned. The fight gets serious, with the two trading fast blows and glaring at each other with hatred. The scene changes, showing that from above, two people were watching the whole commotion. It was Jongjin and Hak Yong, with Jongjin asking who he thinks will win the fight. Jongjin then tells his companion that he'll leave the guy from Jimyong for him to handle. Back in the fight, Doyunbaek's phone vibrates and he gives a slight smirk. Looking at the screen, he sees they've managed to track Mark, who has been found. Hakyong then announces he's going to get the little squirrel and immediately leaves on his mission. Jungjin stays behind, observing everything with his serious and calculating gaze. The scene cuts back to the brawl, with Doyun landing a heavy blow on our hero, but Ujie doesn't take it lying down and manages to block one of the enemy's strikes. He thinks that the guy is not an easy opponent, as he seems to read his movements. On the other side, Doyun also realizes he had mistaken Ujie for just some nobody. Still, he's not shaken and says there's no way he can lose this fight. Ujie manages to dodge a punch, explaining that he twisted his body and the blow missed. He counterattacks, and Doyun notices the kid's speed has suddenly increased, but he's not intimidated, and thinks that if Ujie got fast, he'll just get faster. With that, Doyun lands a quick, precise strike on our protagonist's leg. Ujie loses his balance, but uses the momentum to advance and grab his opponent's arm, and without giving him a moment to breathe, he starts unleashing a sequence of brutal punches. Doyun defends against the punches, thinking he won't fall for Ujie's wild blows. He remains calm and keeps his guard up, waiting for an opening to counterattack. Ujie continues his full-force assault, but Doyun manages to defend himself well. Our hero backs off frustrated, feeling like he's punching a brick wall. And indeed, Doyun proves to be a true wall, unfazed by his rival's attacks. With a focused look, he spots an opening and thinks this is his chance. In that instant, he grabs Ujie's arm and leg with impressive speed, and without giving him any chance to defend, he throws him to the ground with all his might. On the ground, our hero can only groan in pain, feeling the impact of the hard fall. Doyun approaches and raises his hand, preparing to end the fight for good. He then lands a clean knife hand strike to Ujie's neck. Ujie gets up with difficulty, while Doyun looks down on him, appearing victorious. He wipes his mouth and warns that a rash move only creates openings for the opponent. Ujie looks at his sore arm, wondering if that was some kind of hapkido, but with a smirk, he asks if Doyun didn't consider that it might have been bait. Ujie lunges at Doyun with everything he's got, catching him by surprise with the feint. He lands a hit on his opponent, who feels the blow with force, but Doyun immediately retaliates with a powerful punch to Ujie. Angrily, he warns that this time he's going to twist our hero's arm for real. Ujie rushes in again, trying to land another of his quick strikes. Doyun narrowly dodges, thinking the kid's attacks are still sharp, but he manages to block the punch, warning that this will be his last attack. Then, Doyun grabs our hero's arm with impressive strength and twists it. He applies a twisting technique, and Ujie tries to use the same move as before, but Doyun spins and reverses the situation, slamming our hero against the ground. And with a final blow, he lands a powerful strike to the face of his fallen opponent. The blow is so strong it knocks him out, leaving him sprawled and unconscious. The crowd watching sees both opponents on the ground, signaling the end of the fight. Ujie is on his knees, panting and exhausted after such an intense exchange, but suddenly a shadow falls over him, and the boy looks up, confused. Ujie is shocked, wondering if Doyun is a zombie for never staying down, but Doyun, though completely battered, says with difficulty that he's not done yet. However, his body can't take any more, and he finally collapses to the ground, defeated. Ujie watches the fallen guy, having flashbacks of other fights from his past. From a distance, a guy in a leather jacket comments that the punk really knows how to make things tense. He looks up, and we see that Jungjin was still there, just observing. Jungjin is surprised, covering his mouth as he recognizes who was down there all along. Doyun, on the ground, says it seems he's still no match for Jungjin Seonbai. Jungjin then turns his back, saying the result was disappointing, as always. The scene cuts to the night sky, creating a tense, post-battle atmosphere. Even in defeat, Doyun stares at the sky with a look full of anger and determination. On the other side, Ujie smiles with satisfaction, saying it's been a while since he had a good fight. Doyun struggles to his feet and admits defeat with his head hanging low, but he glares at Ujie and warns him not to think this beef is over. Ujie listens as the guy vows to keep hounding him until he leaves the school. With a confident smirk, our hero tells him to bring it on, because he'll just keep taking him down. Ujie gets annoyed and shouts that he never messed with Doyun's school, and he doesn't even care about his own. He looks angry, having zero patience for his opponent's accusation. But suddenly, Ujie smiles and says, "Help arrived right on time." Doyun's buddy is shocked. He had told the others to lay low for a while. Just then, Cheolsang shows up with his crew, restraining the guys who started the trouble. The captured group confesses they were only doing it because they got paid. The guy gets furious and asks if it's true they took the money and bailed. He freaks out with rage, screaming that the whole situation is completely screwed because of this. The young man bows and apologizes, admitting he was careless and just followed the committee, but Ujay tells him there's no need to bow his head over that. He finishes by saying that even if this hadn't happened, they were bound to clash eventually. The guy agrees with what Ujay said, leaving Ujay and his friends pretty confused. With a smirk, our hero gets curious about what he means. The opponent then says that even though he lost, he won't give up on becoming the Myeongwang. Ujay accepts the challenge immediately, saying he'll be ready whenever the guy wants to fight. The rival glances at him sideways, looking thoughtful about our hero's answer. Then he asks Ujay directly why he wants to be the Myeongwang so badly. His friends are curious too, and we see their doubtful expressions. Ujay stares at him seriously and asks what could be so important that he'd abandon his friends. The scene shifts, and a mysterious guy in a cap and glasses walks down a nearby staircase. One of the youths recognizes him instantly and asks if he thought he wouldn't be seen. Just then, a blonde guy with an angry look appears, staring at the disguised man. The man mocks him, calling the blonde an ex-boss, but the blonde doesn't like the joke. He keeps provoking him, saying they've both been replaced by the younger generation. The guy in the cap comments that the Myeongwang rookie is good, but the blonde doesn't care. He stares at the blonde in silence, who gets annoyed and asks why he's looking. The cap guy gives a lecture saying he's in his senior year and needs to think about the future. The blonde scoffs, saying that sounds like typical student council president talk. Then, the young man admits that losing his title and getting beaten by a rookie really shook him, but he explains that if he stays stuck on the loss, he'll only have regrets. With a determined look, he states he can't stop because he doesn't want to live with regret. He adds that this applies especially to the bastard wearing sunglasses. The scene cuts to a biker gang speeding through the city. One of them thinks to himself that he didn't know Ujay was so strong and that his defeat was inevitable. He wonders what would happen if Ujay fought Seontai, but he worries about the possibility of Ujay losing and throttles up, irritated by the thought. Elsewhere, Omakim Oppa is live streaming, praising a girl's style. He tells his viewers she's a freshman and attends the same school as him. Omakim invites her to join the crew he's putting together, and she accepts. He says goodbye, telling her he'll see her at school, and night falls over the city. But from a distance, someone watches everything and raises their phone to record the whole scene. He watches some girls on the street, commenting on how mature kids are these days, but he wonders what's going on with high schoolers nowadays. Then he turns back to the stream and asks the chat to show lots of love for his program, Teen Excel. In the chat, someone recognizes the girl and asks if she's from Myeongwang High, surprising him. The camera focuses on Hyeri Chai, a student walking by with a totally different vibe. He finds her vibe interesting and asks his followers if he should go talk to her. Omakim approaches her, asking if she's from Myeongwang and if she has a moment to chat. The girl gets a bit nervous at the approach and declines, apologizing, but he insists, saying he can't let her leave when the fans are so hyped. He turns the camera toward her and asks the viewers to help convince her to join in. Firmly, Hyeri asks him to put the phone away, since she already said no. The live chat is ruthless, and people start mocking him for getting rejected. Omakim gets furious at the situation, grinding his teeth in pure rage and embarrassment. He loses his patience and tries to grab her, yelling about why she's playing hard to get. The girl turns around in fear, completely shocked by the streamer's aggressive attitude. Suddenly, someone snatches the selfie stick from his hand, making the streamer livid. He stands in the middle of the street while the crowd starts gossiping about the commotion. Outraged, he screams that she's freaking out and making him look bad with that trash. Hyeri is totally stunned, unable to believe the guy's aggressive behavior. But out of nowhere, a strong hand grabs his wrist, and he jumps, confused. It's Hak Yong, glaring at him with hate and asking how he dares to mess with Hyeri. The girl recognizes him immediately and is surprised to see who showed up to defend her. We are told he is Hak Yong Yoon, a second-year student at Jinsong Tech. The streamer screams in desperation, telling Hak Yong to let go because he's going to break his wrist. Then the big guy simply lets go, letting the piece of the selfie stick drop to the ground. Omakim runs off, but screams a threat that the guy is dead meat. Ujay's friends are shocked by the audacity, but one of them says to just let it go. His buddy is confused, looking like he can't believe what just happened. Hak Yong then turns to the girl and asks in a calm voice if she's okay. She answers yes, and thanks him for helping her out of that tense situation. A romantic mood fills the air, and the two look at each other in a special way. From a distance, Omakim watches the scene with hatred, screaming that they're all going to pay. He then grabs his phone and calls Rhea, ordering her to bring the boys over. The girl holds the broken piece of the staff, while Hak Yong stands awkwardly near her. The big guy starts breaking out in a cold sweat, clearly nervous as Hyeri Chai approaches. She then thanks him for his help, but he gets all flustered and says it was nothing. The two of them just stand there, and a somewhat romantic mood starts to fill the air. From a distance, Ujay's friends watch the scene, one all excited and the other sleepy. Hakyong says it feels like fate brought them together, but his friends make fun of his serious talk. His buddy keeps teasing him, making Hakyong completely embarrassed by the whole situation. But Hyeri smiles and says she doesn't mind if they speak casually. He blushes and agrees that's better since they're the same age. His buddies keep pushing him, telling him not to just stand there and to say something to her. Hidden away, Omakim smokes a cigarette, watching the whole scene with pure hatred in his eyes. He turns to his guys and yells, telling them to go take out those losers now. But out of nowhere, one of his own men turns and slaps him across the face. The streamer is thrown hard against the wall, collapsing to the ground without even reacting. The brute gets furious, yelling that a spoiled little brat doesn't dare show off in front of him. The brute glares at the group with a furious look, showing he's not messing around. Hakyong provokes him, calling the guy a peaceful bastard and making fun of him. But then a girl with purple hair shows up, and the guy mutters that he can't believe it. Hyeri smiles, and the newcomer asks if she happens to know that loser over there. With a mocking smile, the girl warns that nothing good ever comes from them crossing paths. The scene cuts to a flashback, showing something being thrown violently to the ground. We see Doyen telling the guys to leave, to stop tarnishing the committee's name, but a student rebels, shouting and asking who he thinks he is to be giving orders. Doyen doesn't hesitate and lands a hard punch, startling the boy. He then warns in a serious tone that this is an order, not just some request, and he establishes himself as the boss of Jimyong High, making his authority clear. The defeated boy punches the ground in anger, frustrated at being humiliated like that. The scene returns, with Doyen opening a door and looking inside suspiciously. A man in a suit greets him with a smile, asking if he's finished the job. Afterward, the two walk together, and he comments that the Myeongwang boss was pretty strong. Doyen apologizes for the defeat, but Jung-jin says he's just upset that he lost. He says it makes him feel like he forced all this weight onto his shoulders, but Doyen assures him he won't give up and will try again for the school. With a clenched fist, he promises with great determination that next time, he will win. Jung-jin gives a little smile, saying he never imagined he was the fighting type. It's explained to us that he always thought Doyen was the most logical and level-headed of them all. Because of that, he wonders if his friend was just looking for an excuse to fight. Jung-jin then reflects that sometimes he doesn't understand this obsession of his with the students' problems. The scene cuts to a flashback, with a hand holding the door of a classroom. We see Jong-yeon standing there, surrounded by several unconscious students on the classroom floor. In his hand, he holds a blood-soaked metal pipe after the nasty fight. Terrified by the scene, the young man can only call out Jong-yeon's name. Shocked, he shouts again, and Jong-yeon looks back with a bruised and sad face. Back in the present, Doyen explains that he does it because he's the student council vice president. Jung-jin smiles and hugs him, saying that now he seems like the Doyen he knows. Jung-jin tries to wake Doyen up, yelling for him to snap out of that strange trance. The scene changes to a flashback, with Ji-young on the floor while someone shouts to call a teacher. Jung-jin announces he's taking her to the nurse's office and asks Doyen to handle things there. He watches the scene with a serious and thoughtful look, pondering what happened. Then, his hand reaches down and picks up some blue pills that were lying on the floor. He examines the pill and recognizes the name Orion, shocked by the discovery. Elsewhere, a group of tough-looking guys gathers, looking ready for trouble. We see that they're a gang of foreigners, all looking mean. One of them smirks, saying he was just looking to warm up a bit before the fight. Then they jump down from a high place, commenting that they arrived at the perfect time. A guy in glasses immediately lunges forward, landing a powerful punch on his rival's face. The fight continues, and one of them is caught from behind in a chokehold, completely immobilized. Another guy is thrown hard to the ground, his face slamming down from the impact. One of the attackers gets ready to swing a bat, aiming for his opponent's head, but from behind, you can only hear the crack of the bat. One of the gang members faces his opponent, taunting him to see what he's got. At that, the brute charges forward with everything he's got, winding up an angry punch. The blow lands square on, with an impact so strong it looks like it'll knock the guy down, but he just gives a little smirk and prepares a quick counterattack with his own fist. Except his punch fails, and the opponent easily blocks the blow. The guy is thrown far away, and Mark appears, observing the fallen enemy on the ground. He comments that the Sunrise Gang is no joke, since they took the guys down so fast. Then he turns to a mysterious shadow and asks, "Isn't that right, boss?" A man stands up, and Mark identifies him as Seontae Yang by his handsome face. Seontae gets irritated and asks who the hell dares to say the name he hates. Then the white-haired man introduces himself, saying his name is Gyeong-suk's son. Seontae is surprised, as he'd already figured he wasn't just a nobody, but Gyeong-suk taunts him, asking why he's already frozen in place, and without waiting for a reply, he rushes towards Seontae with absurd speed. Gyeong-suk lands a devastating blow, showing that he's on a completely different level. Seontae senses the danger approaching, and his fighting instincts kick in at the critical moment. With a malicious smile, Gyeong-seok attacks with a vertical strike, bringing his weapon down with full force. But Seontae manages to dodge at the last second, narrowly escaping the deadly attack. The weapon hits the ground hard, shattering everything, and Gyeong-seok presses forward with his power. Seontae turns calmly as the villain says he expected more, seeing as he's the brother. He continues to stare him down, listening as Gyeong-seok completes his taunt with contempt. And then he finishes by saying that Seontae is a huge disappointment, right to his face. Gyeong-seok lunges at Seontae, calling him a huge disappointment. The young man's eyes widen, surprised by the speed and force of the incoming blow. With a furious look, Gyeong-seok calls him a brat, completely underestimating his opponent. But Seontae dodges the punch with a simple head movement, leaving the older man shocked. The camera pans out, showing his perfect agility as he escapes by a hair's breadth. Gyeong-seok smirks, admitting he doubts anyone his age could beat him. He adds that, of course, Seontae is still a long way from Seonu's level. Then Gyeong-seok reveals he knows about their relationship, which is why he thinks they could team up. He turns his back and walks slowly towards his team, showing his confidence. Then, he calls for Mark, who answers immediately, introducing himself as the big boss. The white-haired man tells him to treat Seontae with respect, because you never know what tomorrow holds. He finishes by saying that Seontae might be the future leader of the powerful Ilwan group. Mark then asks if the boss is just going to leave, a mocking tone on his face. And in a sudden move, he charges at Seontae with a baton, yelling a curse. But before the blow can land, a tattooed hand appears out of nowhere and stops the attack firmly. The scene reveals two more people watching the fight. The aggressor gives a small smirk, as if he doesn't care about the interruption, but his hand is squeezed hard, making the brute tremble and groan in pain. Mark then screams that it hurts a lot, desperately clutching his own wrist. The guy with the gold chain gets annoyed and tells Mark to wait, calling him a punk. Seontae comments seriously that this whole mess is because their business needs his stuff. Then Mark, or one Iljin, asks mockingly if he isn't right. New boss. The scene changes to a fancy place, with a sun emblem on the wall and electronic music playing. In this place, Mark is relaxed, drinking next to a girl and enjoying the party. Nearby, two other group members are chatting and drinking, completely at ease. The man in the leather jacket and sunglasses is also at the party, but with a serious face. A bit further back, a young man with glasses observes the surroundings with a very attentive gaze. The scene cuts to outside the building, showing the busy street at night. Outside, the guy in the leather jacket is leaning against a motorcycle, alone. Then the guy with glasses arrives and asks why he's out there, and he says he just wanted some air. The guy with glasses asks about Orion, saying that since it's a steroid, it's a bit risky, right? But the other one replies that Seontae is an old friend, and he's not sure if he should let him go down the wrong path. Then the one with glasses confronts him, asking what he has to say about Ujjae. The guy in the jacket gets angry at the question and wants to know what he's implying. Just then, the one with glasses reveals he already knows about his connection to this Ujjae person. He continues, saying that's why he can't understand his recent actions at all. The man in the leather jacket just adjusts his glasses, keeping his expression serious and cold. He starts to walk away, telling the other not to get the wrong idea about the situation. Then he stops suddenly and tells his colleague to get a grip and pull himself together. Outraged, the one in the leather jacket turns and yells, asking what he just said. The one with glasses retorts that if it weren't for Seontae Seonbai, he wouldn't be where he is today. The scene then shifts to a flashback, showing a normal street on a sunny day, and we see a younger Ujjae thanking someone with a look on his face like he's being forced to. The person he's thanking is holding a drink and asks why he didn't get one for himself. Soon after, a group of students appears, enthusiastically thanking their Seonbai. Ujjae complains that something is very wrong, but his friend tells him to just accept defeat. The group of classmates starts laughing, proposing a rematch to settle things in the finals. Angry, he yells, asking why they're laughing since their grades are terrible too. The Seonbai admits he has a point, but warns that with Cheol-sang it's a different story. We're told he ranked first in the entire school on the semester exams. The two friends are completely shocked, shouting in disbelief at what they just heard. The classmate continues, saying it wasn't for nothing that Cheol-sang got in as the top student. Ujjae is even more astonished, processing the information that he's the top student there. Then his friend teases him, saying maybe it's time to stop calling the guy an idiot. Suddenly, one of the boys looks at a coffee shop and asks if that isn't Hyeri over there. He finds it strange because she's sitting with that girl from the Sunrise team. Ujjae's friend points, asking what Sunrise is doing there with Hyeri. The girl is Ria Son, a second-year student and a very famous internet influencer. The boy takes out his phone to show he follows her, but gets yelled at to pay attention. They say she's just like the rest of Sunrise, and rumors say she has a very cruel side. With a serious expression, Ujai wonders what Hyeri is doing with someone like her. At the coffee shop, Hyeri says that Ji-young told her everything and that Rhea needs to stop this. But Rhea gives a mocking smile, calling the girl stupid and asking what she's talking about. Hyeri then confronts her, reminding her that she was friends with Jun and shouldn't treat her sister this way. Rhea defends herself, saying Ji-young came to her on her own and Hyeri shouldn't get involved. She explains with a smile that Ji-young needed money and help studying after her sister died. Playing the victim, she wonders why the girl turned against her after being helped. Then Hyeri questions what kind of help she gave, wanting to know the truth behind it. Ji-young, trembling with fear, tries to speak to her, calling her Aoni, a term of respect. But as she tries to talk about the money, Rhea picks up the glass with a look of pure malice, and without a second thought, she throws the entire drink in Ji-young's face, who is left soaking wet. Rhea yells at the girl, saying she's very brave for thinking she can get away with this with Hyeri there. She turns to Hyeri and tells her not to get cocky, because the problem is between her and Ji-young. Hyeri stands up abruptly, telling Rhea to be honest for once in her life. Then she accuses her of taking out all the feelings of inferiority she had for her sister on Ji-young. Hyeri helps Ji-young up and announces that they are leaving right now. The two leave the place together, leaving a thoughtful and irritated Rhea behind. With a smirk, she says that the one by Seontai's side now is her, not some dead girl. Then she glances over her shoulder and discreetly calls for Omakim Oppa. He appears with a camera in his hand and she asks if he managed to film the sucker. With a malicious smile on his face, the guy replies that of course he did. Omakim then looks at the photos on the camera, thinking that with this material it'll be easy to make a video. The next day at school, students whisper, wondering if the girl in the video is really the vice president. Two students look at a phone, and one of them confirms it's definitely her. A friend tries to show the video to Ujai, who's focused on his schoolwork, but the kid is super persistent, practically shoving the phone in his face so he'll watch. Ujai gives it a quick glance but keeps his unbothered expression. His classmate asks why he isn't reacting, and Ujai says he doesn't see what the big deal is. The scene changes, and Hyeri walks into the classroom, holding some notebooks and looking surprised. She sees all the students staring and whispering as they look at their phones. A boy approaches her, calling her BJ Young Cherry, complimenting her hips and calling her a party girl. He tells her not to play dumb and shows her a picture of a girl dancing on his phone. The guy continues, saying with those moves, she'd blow up online in no time. Hyeri gets desperate and yells that it's not her, that he's completely mistaken, but the student doesn't believe her and touches her, telling her to stop pretending, but that she's got talent. Just then, Ujai grabs the guy's collar and tells him to stop, since she already told him to. He says if she said it's not her, then there's no reason to start drama over it. Hyeri's phone suddenly vibrates, and when she sees the message, she's in complete shock. Ujai notices her stunned expression and finds her reaction strange, wondering what happened. After school, he follows her through the streets, his friend questioning how long he's going to trail her. He keeps watching from a distance and sees the girl enter a sketchy-looking commercial building. His friend starts asking questions, so Ujai covers his mouth to not blow their cover. His friend takes the chance to tease him, asking if he's into Hyeri or something. Seeing his reaction, the friend says that getting all flustered just makes him look even more suspicious, but Ujai explains he's just worried about her because he has a really bad feeling about this. The boy then falls silent, understanding the situation is much more serious than it seemed. The scene changes, and Ji-young runs into a karaoke bar, desperately calling for her Aoni. She finds Hyeri being taunted by a guy who calls her by the nickname BJ Young Cherry. The group continues the intimidation, asking how it feels to get famous at school overnight. Rhea watches everything with a smirk, commenting on how good deep-fake technology is these days. A girl with purple hair confronts Rhea, telling her she's as childish as ever. With a furious glare, Rhea retorts that the girl doesn't get it and doesn't know when to shut her mouth. The purple-haired girl steps in front of Ji-young and tells Rhea to stay away from her. Rhea plays the victim, saying she protected her from bullies and even gave her money to buy Orion. But the other girl warns her that she'll take care of Ji-young from now on, so she should back off. She then puts an arm around Ji-young and tells her it's time for them to leave. Seeing Ji-young hesitate, Rhea threatens her, saying that without her, all her effort will go down the drain. The purple-haired girl comforts her, saying it's okay and that she'll help her from now on. With a malicious smile, Rhea pulls out her phone and warns that if they take one more step, she'll leak everything. She continues the blackmail, saying the whole school will find out BJ Rubna's secret identity, and of course, they'll also see footage of her changing before and after her streams. The purple-haired girl then raises her own phone, showing she's been recording everything. She threatens Rhea, saying if she tries anything, this recording is going straight to the police. With a defiant look, she says, sometime in juvie will do her good. Rhea becomes absolutely furious at the girl's audacity and curses her out with pure hatred. She turns and yells at her goons, ordering them to get that girl's phone now. Next, she orders them to force the two girls to their knees as they face the danger. But suddenly, the door is kicked open, and Ujay and his friend arrive on the scene. The purple-haired girl is relieved to see him, calling out Ujay's name in surprise. Ria is enraged by the interruption and screams at her men to grab her phone now. Ujay then tells his friend Yeonjun to get Hyeri and the other girl out of there as fast as possible. The goons try to block their way, but Ujay steps in front, ready for a fight. With a cold stare, he warns them he's going to end this real quick, and in the blink of an eye, he takes down the guys with a series of brutal punches and strikes. One of the goons gets up, cursing, but Ujay dodges his attack without any trouble, and with a single powerful blow, he throws the brute against the wall, ending the fight. Seeing this, Ria gets desperate and grabs a fire extinguisher to attack Ujay from behind, but he senses the movement, catches the extinguisher, and uses it to pin the girl by her neck. With no chance to fight back, she drops the extinguisher and falls to the ground, completely defeated. On the floor, she asks if he's part of Sunrise, and if he's the Ujay Shin. A memory of a fight flashes in his mind, and he tells her to give Seontae a message. He warns with a serious look that their rematch isn't far off. Outside, Hyunjin turns around, completely terrified, calling for the friend he left behind. Yeri asks if it's okay to leave Ujay alone, suggesting maybe they should call the police. But the boy panics, thinking calling the cops would be going way too far. He gets desperate, wondering what he should do and if the best option is to call Cheolsang. Suddenly, he looks up as if he's just seen a ghost right in front of him. The boy turns pale with fear as he recognizes the figure heading toward them. It was Byung-uk, none other than the feared and dangerous leader of the Sunrise crew. The whole group freezes in fear, unable to believe they've run into him of all people. With his heart in his throat, Hyunjin starts praying that he'll just walk right past them, and for a moment, it seems his prayers are answered as the man continues on his way. He was just about to let out a sigh of relief, thankful for escaping that mess. But out of nowhere, the man smacks him, yelling and calling Hyunjin a punk. Then Ujay shows up, asking how he was supposed to find him if he wasn't answering his texts and calls. The Sunrise leader screams in rage, not believing the guy he hates most is right there. He charges to attack, warning that it's been a while since he's given him a beating, and it's about time. The Sunrise leader throws a swift punch, but Ujay manages to dodge it at the last second. With a quick spin, he dodges, and the brute wonders where he came from. Then Ujay seizes the opportunity and lands a powerful blow right to his side. He blocks the attack with his arms, thinking a cheap shot like that wouldn't work. But Ujay yells that the real hit is this one, landing a punch straight to his face. The force of the punch sends the man flying backward, and he crashes onto the asphalt. He props himself up, spitting blood, and curses at Ujay with a look of pure hatred. All beaten up, he swears he's going to finish Ujay, while his men urge him to calm down. Turns out, a crowd has already formed, with everyone filming the fight on their phones. Wiping the blood from his mouth, he angrily warns that Ujay's end is near. He guarantees that just like 2 years ago, he's going to beat him to a pulp again. But Ujay stares him down and tells them to just wait, because he's going to destroy all of them. The scene returns to Ujay, who finally understands that Hyeri was friends with the late Jun, and he realizes that Ji-young is actually the younger sister who's a freshman. He's shocked, as he knew she had a sister, but not that she attended the same school. In a flashback, Hyeri cheerfully introduces herself, saying she hopes they can be friends. She remembers that he's always starting fights and asks if he's thinking of transferring again. Back in the present, Ujay realizes that Hyeri's actions and words now make perfect sense. Ji-young comments to Hyunjun that Ujay seemed pretty surprised when he saw her earlier. Then she approaches the boy and calls him Seonbai, making him blush. With a serious look, she asks if the guy in the fight is really Ujay Shin. The scene cuts to a funeral, showing a girl's picture on an altar of white flowers. We see Ujay crying his eyes out, truly grieving the loss of someone important. He bows respectfully in front of a younger Ji-young, who watches him as he mourns. Back at the fight, Ji-young slaps Yeonjun's shoulder, calling the attackers scum. In another moment, Ujay punches a wall in anger, vowing he won't let this go. But Hyeri holds him back firmly, telling him to calm down because getting stressed won't help. He gets angry, yelling about how she expects him to do nothing after what happened to Ji-young. But the girl asks what the alternative is, because while she understands his anger, she sees no other way. She questions if Ji-young would have wanted to see all this revenge, leaving Ujay speechless. With a touch on his shoulder, she says that now, at least they can take care of Ji-young. Hyeri then suggests they visit Ji-young's memorial together sometime soon. She finishes by saying she's sure their friend would be happy to see the three of them together. The scene shifts to a memorial, a chic, modern place for keeping ashes. There, an old photo shows a much younger Ujay and Seontae, alongside the late June. We find out that the person visiting the memorial was Seontae himself, in silence. The scene changes again, now to a rest area outside the building. The guy in the leather jacket reads on his phone that Uje has already picked a fight with Rhea and Byung-uk. Just then, Seontae appears and asks why he didn't come along, since it had been a while since he'd been there. The one in the jacket explains that he thought about it, but figured he wanted to be alone at that moment. Seontae chuckles, as if agreeing with the decision his friend made for him. The other notices and says that, judging by his face, it looks like he was right. The wind blows hard, signaling that a new storm is about to brew between the crews. Seontae crushes a can in anger, wondering if Uje really messed with Byung-uk and Rhea. Hyukjun comments that at least they didn't get as screwed as he did, but that Uje is holding up well. Then he looks at his friend and asks what he plans to do about this whole situation. The young man stares at the crushed can, replying that he's not sure what he should do with him. With a dark look, he wonders if maybe he should just finish Uje once and for all. The can drops to the ground, and his friend asks, startled, if he's really serious about that. But Seontae laughs and says he was just kidding, lightening the mood a bit. He calls Hyukjun by name, with the can on the ground symbolizing the remaining tension. Looking up at the sky, Seontae begins to say that it doesn't matter which path he chooses to follow. He turns and asks if, this time, Hyukjun will truly be on his side. The scene shifts to the Sunrise headquarters, where Byung-uk screams Uje's name with pure hatred. He slams a glass on the table, shattering it and cursing his rival. All bruised, Rhea bites her finger and vows to make that bastard crawl at her feet. The scene shows the three villains gathered, plotting some plan to get revenge on Uje. At the Sunrise headquarters, one of the members sighs, adjusting his glasses while looking at a tablet. Suddenly, the elevator doors open, revealing two unexpected figures. Mark and another man enter the place, walking with an air of ownership. They throw a body on the floor and announce with a shout that the mission was a success. Mark then turns to his ally and asks why he looks so down. The man drinks an energy drink, saying if he's going to embarrass the crew, he should just keep quiet. He slams the can on the table, saying it's pathetic for their so-called leader to get beaten like that. Byung-uk, the leader of Sunrise, becomes enraged and shouts, demanding to know what he just said. But the guy scoffs, telling him not to take it out on him and to watch who he's messing with. With a threatening glare, he gets closer and asks if by any chance he's looking to die. Enraged, Byung-uk flips the table and curses him, lunging at him with total hatred. The man attacks back, asking who gave him permission to open his mouth to him. He then slams Byung-uk's head hard against a musical instrument that was nearby. Lying on the floor, the Sunrise leader can only let out a scream of pain, completely broken. To finish it off, the attacker presses him against the floor, showing his complete superiority. Byung-uk groans in pain, being crushed against the ground with no chance to react. The young man with glasses is then revealed, being called Doyun Seonbae by the attacker. He asks if they've found the guy he's looking for, the one who beat up his cousin. The man releases Byung-uk and asks if he tracked him, wanting to know who the hell he is. Doyun explains that he didn't, but he got the list of transfer students and already sent it to his phone. With a thumbs up, the guy praises Doyun, saying he's really Seontae's brain. As Byung-uk coughs, the man says he didn't see anyone suspicious on the list. He decides he'll just take them down one by one until the truth comes out. But where's his phone? The brute then realizes his phone has simply vanished from his pocket. He screams desperately at whoever took it, demanding they give his phone back now. Covered in blood, Byung-uk yells Doyun Bayek's name, telling the bastard to come back. But Mark calms him down, telling him to relax and keep his composure in front of everyone. Rhea watches everything with a hateful glare, clearly plotting some form of revenge. We're shown that Doyun thinks she's going to need a little extra help right now. Mark then offers something, saying there's nothing better for a power boost. He hands an Orion pill to Byung-uk, talking about the potential he could unlock. Inside a cafe, Hakyong's friends are already wanting to leave after 2 hours, but he, with his eyes glued to his phone, tells them to go on ahead and says he's staying longer. One of his friends refuses to go, saying a true partner doesn't abandon another. Suddenly, the same friend's jaw drops, not understanding what he's seeing outside. He yells for everyone to look, pointing at a couple walking by on the sidewalk. The scene changes to Ujjae and Rhea-sun, with her commenting that he gets along well with the freshman. She smiles and advises him to be friends with everyone, but without starting any trouble, you know? Indignant, he asks what trouble she's talking about, getting very irritated. She then threatens to tell everything she heard from June, and he immediately deflates. But then Rhea reveals that the girl always seemed very happy when she talked about him. Ujjae becomes thoughtful, and she asks them to get along, even for their friend's sake. He then gives a small smile, understanding that she wants him to make up with Ji-young. At that moment, he starts talking about some friends, but Rhea suddenly claps her hands. He jumps in shock and yells at her, asking why she scared him. She panics, remembering she had a meeting set up with Hak-yong. Ujae gets annoyed, referring to Hak-yong as the stone-faced guy he needs to defeat. With a determined look, he thinks that he'll have to settle the score with the guy soon. He sees Hak-yong as the final obstacle before he can finally face Seontae. The scene cuts to someone leaving their house, saying goodbye and rushing off. Later, a girl walks with her brother and asks why he's in such a bad mood. She then asks if something happened with Hyeri Chai. The boy doesn't answer, just keeps walking silently down the street. But suddenly he stops and asks, startled, how she knows the girl's name. In a flashback, it's revealed that Ujae saw the scene her brother caused at school. He was making a huge scene in front of everyone with his big, clumsy demeanor. Ujae then shouts that it would be impossible not to know, since everyone saw the commotion. Her brother tries to run away in embarrassment, and the girl yells at him to get back there right now. Alone, she wonders why, of all people, it had to be Hyeri. The girl, who we learn is named Ha-eun-yoon, fears her brother will get hurt again. The scene changes, and we see a guy pointing at Ji-young in the middle of a group. In the classroom, Ji-young is sitting and wonders if it was Ujae who told everyone about her. We then see Cheol-sang, who looks thoughtful and remembers the conversation he had with the upperclassmen. In a flashback, Ujae asks Cheol-sang and his friends to do him a favor and keep an eye on her. He emphasizes the request, saying he's counting on Cheol-sang since they're in the same class. One of the friends then asks, full of curiosity, if the girl is his girlfriend. Ujae doesn't think twice and smacks the guy on the head without any patience. He yells, asking what kind of nonsense that is, and the friend justifies himself by saying he seemed so serious. With that, Ujae explains that she's the younger sister of a very important friend of his. Cheol-sang is surprised, repeating the part about the friend who meant so much to the upperclassmen. Excitedly, he and his friends shout that Ujae can count on them for this mission. Ujae just watches the freshmen, thinking he'll leave the girl in their care. Back in the present, Ji-young looks behind her with a somewhat suspicious expression. Cheol-sang, who was in the room, notices her movement and goes on high alert. He watches the girl get up and leave the classroom, heading toward the hallway. Without wasting a second, Cheol-sang and his group get up and start following Ji-young. She turns around and asks if they need something, startling the boys with her direct approach. Cheol-sang gets all flustered, stammering that it's nothing, really. He looks at his friends, who are pretending like nothing's happening, and calls them traitors. Then he turns to Ji-young and starts to explain that the truth is Ujae. She interrupts him, surprised, asking if he's talking about Ujae Shin. The whole group excitedly confirms that it's him, the sophomore Ujae Shin. With a small smile, she thinks of his name and calls him Ujae Oppa in her head. Cheol-sang gets confused, repeating the word Oppa without understanding the familiarity. The scene shifts to a cafe, where Hyeri Chai is apologizing sincerely. She says things were a mess that day, and that she owed him an apology. Hak-yong, a bit embarrassed, says it's okay as long as she didn't get hurt. One of his friends gets excited about the cake on the table, and Hak-yong agrees it looks good. But another guy in the group clutches his backpack strap, feeling very uncomfortable. Then, he suddenly stands up and tells everyone he's leaving. His friend doesn't get it and asks why he's leaving if he was going to eat cake, but the friend drags him away while he begs to have just one piece of cake. The guy then glances back, checking if the plan is working as it should. Hak-yong watches the scene with a serious look, understanding the signal his friend was giving. Then the friend gives a discreet wink, confirming it was all an act between them. Hyeri gets worried, commenting that their friend seemed really upset, but Hak-yong reassures her, saying he'll be fine next time, leaving her confused. Sitting alone, he then brings up the time she was talking about Hyeri. He remembers that rainy day when they first bumped into each other on the street. A flashback shows her putting a bandage on his face, and he looks very surprised. Hyeri then reveals that although she didn't recognize him at the time, that was when she first saw Ujae in person. She explains that before that, she had only seen him in photos on her phone. The picture showed Ujae and a friend, along with a girl whose face was blurred out in the photo. She recalls Ujae introducing himself to the class, all smiles and wanting to be friends with everyone. And to her surprise, that same Ujae transferred right into her school and her class. At first, she thought he was so arrogant that all she wanted to do was slap him, but she continues her analysis, thinking about another side of Ujae's personality. She remembers that, as June said, he also has a very reliable side. In the end, she thinks he's a good guy despite his attitude. Hak-yong gets a little tense with the conversation and asks if she likes Ujae. She panics and denies it immediately, saying she's not into arrogant guys. Besides, she says, a real man has to be strong and muscular like him. But then she realizes what she said and gets all embarrassed by her slip-up. Hak-yong just stands there, processing the compliment about his impressive physique. To hide his nervousness, he chugs his drink in one go, leaving her speechless. She then changes the subject, saying Ujae will be a great help to Ji-young. At this, Hak-yong asks if Ji-young is really her friend's younger sister. The scene cuts to another place where someone is yelling for a guy named Shokman to stop making things up, But the guy replies that it's not a lie, and Ji-young bursts out laughing at the joke. We see that she's having a genuinely good time, with a sincere smile on her face. Nearby, a girl calls out to someone named Ji-won and points towards Ji-young and the others. He looks on with a malicious expression, wondering if that's the girl Rhea told him to bring to her. One of the guys from the group points out that Ji-young's getting up to leave. Seeing this, the group of bullies gets up at the same time, clearly looking for trouble. One of them then bumps into Ji-young on purpose, making her lose her balance completely. With that, her tray falls and food scatters all over the cafeteria floor. Outraged, Ji-young's friends curse them out and ask what their problem is. The other group's leader tells them to count themselves lucky and stay out of where they're not wanted. A girl tries to de-escalate, but Ji-young gets angry that they didn't even apologize. Rhea-sun then, with a mocking smile, says they're about to see who's really in trouble. Suddenly, Ji-young is thrown with full force against the wall, screaming from the impact. The attacker grabs her face, questioning if she's crazy for ignoring Rhea. But Ji-young fights back and slaps her hand away, saying this has nothing to do with her. Furious, the girl pulls Ji-young's hair with great force, cursing at her non-stop. She even mocks her, saying that hanging out with Cheol-sang's group won't do any good. Ji-won throws his cigarette away, saying he can easily take care of Ujay's goons. With a threatening look, the girl warns Ji-young that she'd better answer Rhea's calls, unless of course she wants to be dragged around like a dog. Tired of the nonsense, Ji-young shoves the girl and yells at her to leave her alone. The attacker gets furious at her reaction and says Ji-young is asking for a serious beating. With a cynical smirk, she asks if Ji-young has any shame at all. She taunts her, questioning why she hangs out with Cheol-sang, who holds her back from being the best. But Ji-young replies that she would never understand, since her grades are complete trash. The girl scoffs, saying she'd rather die than let go of her pride, and threatens to spill a secret. Before she can reveal anything, Ji-young lands a sharp slap right across the girl's face. Consumed by rage, the bully lunges at Ji-young, ready to retaliate with everything she's got. But out of nowhere, Ji-won appears and lands a powerful blow right in the middle of her face. The scene cuts back to the cafe, with Hyeri surprised to learn that Hak-young's sister goes to her school. She then asks what his sister is like, and Hak-young gets all flustered by the question. He describes her as a tough and very intimidating troublemaker, leaving Hyeri shocked. Curious, she asks for the name of Hak-young's younger sister. Back at the fight, Ji-won threatens Ji-young, and the girl says she's screwed now. Ji-won's group surrounds the girl, asking if she thinks she can just walk away, but she, whose name is Ha-eun-yun, tells them to pay for the burger they knocked over. The scene changes, and a boy shows off a blue pill saying it's for super focus. His friend is skeptical, and he explains that a guy paid him with it instead of cash. He continues, saying that even athletes use it because it's stronger than a lot of steroids. The other guy is doubtful, but he insists that the stuff is already worth a fortune on the forums. Back at the cafeteria, Cheol-sang wonders why Ji-young is taking so long. He then notices the commotion outside and immediately goes on high alert. Without a second thought, he gets up and runs towards the back exit. Arriving there, he looks around, trying to figure out where his friend went. A slamming door catches his attention, along with a scream of frustration. He kicks the door open, yelling Ji-young's name, already expecting the worst. But what he finds inside leaves him completely speechless, you know? Ha-eun-yun is standing there, with the entire group of bullies lying defeated on the ground. She then turns to him and, with an unfriendly expression, asks if he's one of them. Cheol-sang panics, waving his hands to deny he has anything to do with them. But then he hears a sound and realizes Ji-young is on the ground nearby. Desperate, he runs to her and asks if she's okay after the fight. He helps her up, but notices she's clutching a small pink packet tightly. From inside the packet, he sees her taking out a very suspicious blue pill, you know? He immediately remembers that stuff is bad for her, and that she shouldn't take it under any circumstances. Angrily, he slaps her hand and asks if she knows how dangerous that thing is. Just then, Cheol-sang's friends come running, shouting his name in the middle of the alley. He tries to help Ji-young, but she shoves him away and yells for everyone to leave her alone. The girl then breaks down in tears, unable to handle the pressure anymore. Cheol-sang just stands there, looking at her with a very serious and worried expression. The scene changes, and Hak-young tells his sister not to take what he said about the girl seriously. Elsewhere, Hyeri reveals that Ujay was one of Jun's closest friends. She continues, saying she's worried because he's seeking revenge for what happened to his friend. A flashback then shows us that Ujay was the leader of a group, but got kicked out. Hak-young thinks that Ujay's appearance at the school is no mere coincidence. He just hopes that Ujay can finally live a normal life, away from fights. He then realizes that Hyeri has no idea Ujay has gotten into trouble. He then gets an idea. Without a reason for revenge, Ujjae will calm down. With that, he decides he will destroy the Sunrise group as soon as he becomes the leader. The scene changes, with him dropping Hyeri off at the bus stop and handing her something. He smiles and tells her to take her time, knowing she must be busy. Hyeri thanks him, commenting that Hak-young is a very thoughtful guy. All embarrassed, he almost confesses, saying it's because he cares about her, but he plays it cool and says it's nothing, awkwardly saying goodbye. She then gets on the bus and waves as he watches her leave. The bus departs, leaving Hak-young alone and thoughtful at the bus stop. He then pulls out his phone, looking like he's about to handle something important. The scene cuts to his friends, with one revealing he just wanted to give the couple some space. The other gets mad, but he retorts that his friend didn't want to leave without eating the cake. At the LAN house, Hak-young's friend's phone buzzes with the call he'd been waiting for. He answers and immediately starts teasing, asking if Hak-young enjoyed his date with Hyeri. But Hak-young cuts him off and says he needs to face Ujjae very soon. He then explains that he's finally found a real reason to become the Myeongwang. With that, he asks his friend to set the stage for the upcoming fight. Hak-young says he trusts him to handle everything without turning the fight into a circus. His friend gives a little smile, confirming he got the message and will organize everything. The scene then shifts to a dark alley, at the location where the meeting was arranged. Hak-young's friend arrives and sees that the guys he called are all gathered. He then greets the group, introducing himself to the Myeongwang administrators. We then see the group that introduces themselves as the administrators of Battlezone Myeongwang. Hak-young's friend takes a look around and comments that he sees a very familiar face. Hyunjin, Ujjae's friend, looks awkward and gives a little wave, not quite sure what to do. One of the guys from the group points at him, seeming to finally remember where he knows him from. He then remembers that Hyunjin is the guy who was with the top dog from Cheonggu High. With introductions out of the way, Hak-young's friend explains that he wants to set up a fight between the two. He turns to the admins and asks what they think of the whole idea, you know? Hyunjin looks thoughtful, analyzing the proposal he just received. He says he needs to check with Ujjae, but he finds it hard to believe he'd turn down the fight he wants so badly. Hak-young's friend extends his hand, proposing they settle this without a gang war. Hyunjin shakes his hand and agrees, saying Ujjae would prefer it that way too. But he's worried, as he doesn't know how he'll tell Ujjae that he's been exposing him on the forum. The organizer explains that it's hard to get information, which is why he needs new people. One of the administrators then questions if a school without a heavyweight fighter really matters. But another guy, Chanhyuk Choi, suggests they keep an eye on other schools as well. Hyunjun raises his hand and agrees, saying that both schools are connected to Sunrise. At that, Jung Yun-hong says they can't forget about Mars, since Orion has been getting famous on the forums. She continues, explaining that even without proof, everyone believes Orion is connected to that school. And to make matters worse, Mark, their leader, joined Sunrise, which only confirms the connection. Then Junho Jo teases her, asking how she knows so much and if she's a spy. The girl gets nervous, and he tells her to relax, saying he was just messing with her. Chanyeok then suggests deleting the posts about Orion, since students dealing in that stuff is wrong, but Junho complains, saying it drives traffic, and calls the other guy's school stuck up. Chanyeok gets pissed, and Junho lunges at him, yelling at the insult. Hak-young's friend breaks up the fight, asking them to calm down since it's their first meeting. He says he's considering filtering illegal posts, even though the ad money is good. He reminds them that the forum was created out of respect for the Myeongwangs, and to give people a voice. So he questions if their role as administrators is really to censor things. He asks if they should really be deleting posts from verified students, since they're all students themselves. After all, they only became admins by sheer luck, not because they earned it. But the organizer counters, saying the problem is that people are getting hurt because of this. Another admin agrees, saying someone always gets messed up because of the forum. Jang Hyun then points out that, on the other hand, there are also people who take advantage of the situation. At this, Hyunjin says that the Sunrise Group, for example, is one of those who benefit the most. The scene then changes to the next morning at Myeongwang High, as the day begins. Hyunjin arrives at the classroom and immediately looks for Ujjae, opening the door carefully. He sees his friend's backpack at his desk and wonders if he's already at school. He then asks a classmate, who tells him that Ujjae went looking for Jiwon's classroom. Hyunjin's face turns serious, already imagining the trouble that's about to unfold. We see Ujjae outside, furiously asking who was responsible for what happened. A classmate explains it was the same guy with the piercing who picked a fight with him on the roof. Chol-sung then approaches, apologizing for not being able to protect Ji-young. Ujjae doesn't even respond, simply turning and walking down the hall with his friends. He has a determined look, showing he's going to settle this once and for all. Hyunjin then remembers how furious Ujjae looked on that specific day. He panics, hoping Ujjae didn't go after the guy first thing in the morning. We then see Ujjae walking down the hall, heading straight for his target's classroom. Desperate, Hyunjin runs and shouts his name, trying to prevent another fight from starting. Inside, Ji-won turns around with an annoyed look and asks what's going on. With a look full of hatred, Uje asks if he was the one who messed with Ji-young. Ji-won stands up and confirms it, saying he put the new girl in her place because she was being disrespectful. With a mocking tone, he then asks Uje what the problem is with that. He's indignant, questioning if Uje just barged into his classroom over something so stupid. At the door, Hyunjin panics, thinking about the chaos if a teacher shows up. Suddenly, Chael-sang comes running, and Hyunjin is startled, not understanding why. Chael-sang doesn't hesitate and yells for Uje to get out of his way right now. Ji-won just stands there, completely confused by what's happening in front of him. Without giving him a chance, Chael-sang lands a powerful blow right in Ji-won's face. The scene then cuts to a rooftop where the sound of metal echoes through the place. We see Byung-uk, the leader of Sunrise, cursing those bastards with pure hatred. Ji-won asks about the girl, and a henchman reports that the freshmen are already bringing her. With that, Byung-uk takes a small packet of Orion pills out of his pocket. He then pours several of them into his palm, ready to distribute them to his group. He extends his hand to Ji-won and tells each of them to take a pill. The shadows show the guys taking the pills, getting ready for what's coming. With a furious look, Byung-uk says that this time things will be very different. He shouts that now they will finally take control of Myeongwanghai for good. But then Hyunjin and his friend show up, looking at the armed group with confusion. He stops one of the guys and asks mockingly if they're going to war. Hyunjin gets annoyed and yells that the guy has no respect for his senior. Suddenly, Uje appears among them, saying he's feeling a bit rusty. He then says this could be a great opportunity for him to warm up. The Sunrise group then starts walking in formation, ready for the confrontation. They head towards the rooftop, completely ignoring the other students in their way. Suddenly, a violent impact shatters a wall, startling everyone nearby. On the rooftop, everyone stares each other down seriously, anticipating the fight that's about to start. With a malicious smile, Byung-uk asks if all the idiots he's about to break are here. Uje's group is surrounded, but they don't flinch and prepare for combat. At that, the boss yells for them to get him, and the entire gang charges forward with full force. With a serious look, Uje just listens as his friend Hyunjin shouts, apologizing. Desperate, Hyunjin swears he wasn't trying to step on his toes or cause trouble. Around them, other students gossip about what's going on, now understanding the whole situation. They get scared when they see Uje staying silent, realizing he looks really angry. But Uje cuts him off and tells Hyunjin to look at him, saying it's all good. He explains that this actually helped because now he can fight without getting into more trouble. With a confident look, Ujai states that the day to settle scores with Seontai isn't far off. His friend still looks worried and asks if he isn't underestimating this Hak-young guy. Hyunjin mentions the guy has an advantage with his long arms and a really strong body. And to make things worse, he reveals that Hak-young's father was the second leader of Myeongwang. He explains that's why the guy has his own reasons to fight and won't go easy on him. Ujai is surprised by this information, wanting to know his opponent's personal reason. The scene shifts to night, and Uje seems to finally understand the story behind his rival. Hyunjin continues, saying that Uje only cares about taking down the Sunrise team and the current Myeongwang, but he warns that Sunrise will interfere, and they aren't strong enough to handle it. The girl with glasses, Jung Yun-hong, thinks about a strategy, saying she gets frustrated with Uji. She says she's considered teaming up with another school, but knows he would never accept it. At that, Chan-hyuk Choi wonders if an alliance between them would even be possible, thinking it's unlikely. But then he realizes that what he said sounds a bit offensive to the guy's friend. Hyunjin is completely confused, asking why he thought that was an insult. Chan-hyuk then explains that he's already thinking about what will happen after Uje wins. Uje's friend panics, trying to justify himself and saying he got it all wrong, but Chan-hyuk pats him on the back and says he's just kidding, telling them to chill out. Changing the subject, Hyunjin asks why Hak-young suddenly decided to go after the title. Chan-hyuk explains that, actually, Hak-young never liked to fight and always kept to himself. So Hyunjin asks what changed, and the other guy says it might sound silly, but he's serious. With a dead serious face, he reveals that the reason behind it all is the power of love. Uje overhears this from a distance and makes a face like he can't believe how weird this is. The other students start to laugh and cringe at such a cheesy revelation. One of them even scolds the laughing guy, reminding him he did the same thing just a moment ago. Even with a bruised face, Chael-sang states that he doesn't regret what he did one bit. But his friend Hyunjin warns him that no matter the reason, he hit an upperclassman. And because of that, even with Ujai on his side, the older guys won't just let it slide. Chael-sang gets annoyed and says he doesn't care, as he boils with rage remembering what they did to Ji-young. Suddenly, the rooftop door bursts open with a loud bang, interrupting their conversation. Startled, the boys point and warn that it's her, the girl they were just talking about. Ujae turns to see who it is, a serious and slightly surprised expression on his face. It was Ha Yun-yun, the girl who, according to rumors, took down several guys all by herself. Her unexpected arrival puts Ujae on alert, sensing the situation has become more tense. She stares him down and calls him by name, commenting that it's just like him to call someone to the rooftop. Ujae feels a strangely familiar irritation, not quite understanding why. Then she warns that she has no interest in bully drama, but he doesn't even know who she is. Seeing the confusion, Chael-sang steps in between them, trying to say there's been a misunderstanding. But before he could finish his sentence, a violent punch slams into the wall. The impact leaves everyone in shock, paralyzed by the surprise and the display of force. A new bully appears with an iron pipe, asking if the targets he's about to crush are all here. Then he yells for everyone to attack, and the brawl finally kicks off on the school rooftop. Ha Yun-yun stretches with a smile, saying it's a good thing she wore her gym clothes. One of the guys rushes her, but she dodges the blow and grabs him by the waist. While she's holding him, another guy tries to hit her from behind with a metal pipe. But Ujae's masked friend suddenly appears, catching the pipe before it can hit her. He uses the guy's own weapon to knock him out, while Ha-eun takes down the other one with an elbow strike. Ujae's jaw drops at the scene, wondering how that girl is so strong. The leader of the guys takes advantage of the distraction, yelling that he's toast as he prepares to strike. But Ujae notices in time and, with a quick reflex, kicks the pipe away. Without giving the enemy a chance to breathe, he advances and lands a punch straight to the chin. With a focused gaze, Ujae turns and blocks the other bully who was rushing him. He then counterattacks with a devastating hook right to the guy's stomach, knocking the wind out of him. Another enemy tries to attack him, but Ujae is faster and lands a violent blow. And to end the party, he finishes off the leader with an elbow strike that breaks his nose. Without missing a beat, Ujae finishes the last bully with a hammer fist, ending the fight. Ha Eun-yun watches it all and thinks that he's not bad at all, being the first strong person she's met. Meanwhile, Ujae's friend grabs a pipe and goes all out against another henchman. With a devastating blow, he hits the enemy dead on, who doesn't even have time to react. The guy flies back and hits the ground from the impact, completely knocked out by the surprise attack, but another bully grabs him from behind, throws him hard against the fence, and steals his pipe. Using a fighting technique, he slams him to the ground with a dull, violent thud. Seeing this, Ha-eun is surprised, and realizes Ujae's friend knows how to fight too. The boss gets angry and yells at his goons, asking how they're getting beaten so badly. With most of the enemies on the ground, the trio gets together and walks imposingly across the rooftop. In an alley, Hak-young's friends advise him to stay out of it, since he already has another fight scheduled. The rival group scoffs, saying they can handle those guys themselves and that it'll be a piece of cake. Ujae's team gets furious at the provocation, unable to believe they're being underestimated like that. The protagonist's masked friend glances sideways, analyzing the opponents before the fight begins. Suddenly, the bullies recognize their uniforms and panic, shouting the school's name. Seeing the level of these guys, Hak-young's friends change their minds and ask him to join the fight. One of the enemies wastes no time and charges forward, yelling that he'll show them who's boss. But before he could do anything, Hak-young hits him with a precise and devastating punch. The guy is thrown back by the force of the blow, flying across the alley before hitting the ground. He's knocked out instantly, leaving his companions paralyzed with fear at what they just saw. Hak-young then cracks his knuckles, saying that a good warm-up wouldn't be so bad right now. Nearby, Ha Eun-yun turns quickly, with a determined look, ready for action. Ujae's friend also joins the fight, landing a strong punch on one of the bullies. Another guy tries to attack Ha-eun, but she defends against the blow with impressive agility. Without hesitation, she counterattacks with a punch so powerful it breaks the enemy's face. One of the bullies screams in pain after being caught by surprise as Chael-sang moves in quickly. He defends against the attack coming from the side, showing that he also knows how to fight very well. With a precise punch, Chael-sang hits the enemy square on, knocking the guy out instantly. Seeing his friend get hit, the other bully turns with a furious look, ready to retaliate. He yells a curse and tries to hit Chael-sang with a pipe, but the swing misses completely. With a quick move, Chael-sang grabs the pipe and lands an elbow on his opponent's arm. He then uses the guy's own weapon to deliver a violent blow that could even crack his skull. Without giving the other guy time to think, Chael-sang also lands a punch straight to his face. One of the friends comments that he knew Chael-sang was strong, but not this strong. The last bully left starts to panic, screaming in fear as he sees his friends on the ground. He tries to attack with the pipe, but Cheol-sang easily defends against the blow. Scared, the guy cowers, protecting his head and waiting for the worst. Cheol-sang gets even more annoyed at the scene, looking down on the coward with contempt. Tired of the fight, he simply pushes the guy, who falls to the ground without reacting. But before he can get up, the bully is grabbed by someone who asks who he thinks he is. It was Hyunjin, who gets up furiously and yells who the guy thinks he is to call him a weakling. At that moment, Ujjae rushes the other two bullies, a pipe already in his hand, to help. He doesn't even give the first guy a chance and lands a punch with full force right in his face. The impact of the blow is so strong that the bully is knocked out instantly, completely unresponsive. With the enemy on the ground, Ujjae stands still as a mysterious blue aura envelops his body. He realizes all the other students are staring at him, their eyes glowing with the same color. Already exhausted, his friends comment that these guys don't get tired and that their eyes aren't normal. Suddenly, one of the possessed students charges at Ha-eun-yoon with a pipe. With an incredible reflex, she dodges the attack, narrowly avoiding the guy's blow. But when she looks back, she's startled to realize the danger wasn't over yet. The guy takes advantage of the opening and grabs her from behind, pinning her arms tightly. He then lands a violent blow right in the middle of her back, and she feels the full impact. In pain, Ha-eun cries out and stumbles forward, almost falling from the force of the blow. The enemy raises the pipe again, threatening to crack her skull without mercy. Watching from a distance, Cheol-sang is shocked and breaks into a cold sweat, not knowing what to do. Hyunjin is terrified by the scene, sweating profusely, not knowing how to help his friend in danger. But before the blow can land, a loud noise echoes and Cheol-sang's eyes snap open with fury. In the blink of an eye, Ujjae appears from behind and catches the pipe with his bare hands, his face filled with rage. He says he's let these idiots go too far. Suddenly, a new group arrives, and a blonde guy scoffs, saying Ujjae wants to be the boss but is struggling. Irritated, Ujjae slaps the guy and asks who he's calling a struggler. Ujjae's friends immediately recognize the upperclassman and shout his name, completely surprised. The new crew gets annoyed, wondering if the others don't see them just standing there. The possessed student isn't intimidated and steps forward, calling the newcomer a washed-up former star. The blonde guy repeats the insult with a smile, as a purple aura begins to form around him. With absurd speed, he appears in front of the guy and lands a punch right in his face. The student is knocked out instantly, falling to the ground as the leader of the newcomers just watches. He then tells his group to finish off these losers quickly so they can go home. One of Ujjae's friends gives an okay sign, agreeing with the upperclassman's plan. With a bloody nose, the leader of the possessed gets furious and starts cursing in anger. The leader of the possessed gets annoyed and yells at them to stop messing around and just attack. At that, one of the upperclassmen rushes forward and lands a direct punch on the first enemy. He doesn't even give the other guy time to breathe and follows up with a hook, showing off his strength. With a quick move, he throws the last guy to the ground, ending the fight easily. With a mocking smile, the upperclassman turns around and says, "They're just a bunch of weaklings." But suddenly he hears a shout and is startled to hear Hak-young's name being called. The big guy looks back with a confused expression, not understanding what just happened. Out of nowhere, a powerful blow hits Hak-young head-on, sending him flying violently. He slams hard into some boxes, falling to the ground from the brutal impact of the blow. His friends panic and shout his name, desperate over the surprise attack. The one responsible for the attack gets up, as a sinister smoke begins to rise from his body. The upperclassman recognizes him immediately and complains, saying he can't believe it's that guy again. Then, the new enemy stares everyone down with a cold gaze and eyes glowing an intense blue.